Field Avenue in Barnet. They suffered stab wounds in the attack and are now being looked after in hospital.
We need to make sure that when people carry out these activities, they feel the full force of the law. People think they can get away with this. The person who firebombed a few weeks ago is out on bail. That's not full force of the law.
This crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It's not enough to simply say we stand with Jewish communities. Of course we do, but we must show it and act it. And the responsibility lies with each and every one of us, because it is our fight too.
Let's stop importing people from countries where anti-Semitism is the norm. And if our London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, in his infinite wisdom and belief in diversity, thinks that's the sort of diverse view that it's OK to have on the streets of London and the police don't get involved, don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
You keep getting proven right every single time. Jews are not safe in this country.
Well, absolutely. No one can be surprised or feeling shocked that this happened. No Jew certainly is. I mean, we had Zach Polanski last week saying this was just a perceived threat. Well, we can see this isn't any perception. This is real. This is happening on the streets. This isn't just an anti-Semitic terror attack. This is an attack on Britain, on the Western liberal democracy and values.
The first politician that uses the word shocking, I might just go and throttle him, because this is anything but shocking. It's the most expected thing is almost overdue, if you ask me. Because, I mean, I just left Israel last week. I thought it would be the last time we were woken up by explosions, but clearly not.
The Jewish community is our community, and their safety is our safety. And we have to make it absolutely clear, robust, strong leadership, and this has to stop, because otherwise...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
How long's he got? Top of the morning, wakey, wakey, rise and shine. It is 2 minutes past 6. Happy Sunday, one and all. Talk breakfast, a big show for you today. Breaking this morning, Starmer in meltdown, disarray in number 10 as the Prime Minister fights for his political life. Is it now end of days for the most unpopular Prime Minister in the history of modern polling? And as the governing party of this country descend into a bloody civil war, with the first Labour MP throwing her hat into the leadership ring, the problems in Britain mount. Rising inflation, rising unemployment, non-existent growth, a hollowed-out military, sky-high energy prices, spiralling debts. Did number 10 get the memo? So the governing party of this country are taking chunks out of each other as Rome burns. So what next for the country? Can we survive 3 years of this? Starmer, should he stay? Should he go? But the big question I have for you this morning is a simple one. Will a new leader save Labour? 0344 499 1000 is my phone number. The excellent Rory is taking your calls this morning. He's done a great job in the studio. Looks absolutely splendid. Will a new leader save Labour? Text the word talk and your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note. And as the saying goes, let's talk. Now, we've got the dream team this morning. I'm delighted to say that Rory is taking your calls with that rather elegant Irish accent of his. Dave, the engineer, pressing the buttons. Dave's not happy. He's just done 14 hours at Talk Sport. He's being kept awake with mind-altering substances. We've got Talk Star, a man who's a triple threat, looks, talent and charm. It is Phil Dave, who is our executive producer, and I don't know if it's my imagination, but I think I'm already sounding better. Lovely producer Dean, our executive producer, normally he's had a shocking relapse, I'm afraid. It was curry night at Wetherspoons that did for him. Let me tell you, it wasn't too many onion bargees that were the problem. And directing our TV output, the one and only Luke. I'm delighted to say that Luke's in charge of this. You can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online, but you can now watch Talk Breakfast. And yesterday, 40,000 people did just that. Shall we get it to 50 today? Just head over to YouTube, search Talk, hit the live button, and there we are. I'm waving at you. And I'm throwing newspapers at the camera because I've had enough. I've had enough, I tell you. OK, folks, so much to get through. Will a new leader save this government? Will a new leader save Labour? Let me know your thoughts. I can't do it without you. 0344 499 1000. Let's get to work. Dolan's dispatch coming in just a couple of hours' time. I've got the brilliant Simon Danchuk live in the studio in a couple of minutes. Of course, Simon is a perfect person to have on the show. He always is, because he's a compelling broadcaster and commentator. He's also an ex-Labour MP, so can tell us what's going on in the Labour Party and how that's going to pan out. He's also a Reform UK supporter. Will a new leader save Labour? Does that move the dial for you? Do you have any faith in the Labour brand under the right leadership? Is Starmer the problem, or is it the party that's the problem? 0344 499 1000. Front page headlines, here we go. The Sunday Times. Starmer brings in Brown, but backbench rebellion growing. Ex-leader in dramatic return to government, but MP says that she will stand against the PM tomorrow. That's Catherine West. GPs must share data on patients with NHS. This is an interesting story. GPs and hospitals will be forced to share patient data with each other in a push by Labour to join up separate parts of the NHS. Well, that's a very good idea, because the NHS, I think you'll agree, is a Byzantine mess. And my youngest son had one or two very minor medical issues, but it needed to be dealt with, as these things do. And we had letters in the post. It's 2026, and GPs writing letters to us and to the hospital. Why is an NHS GP sending a letter, the so-called snail mail, to a hospital? Have they not heard of this new technology that we call electronic mail? Has anyone heard of email in the NHS? I doubt it, because the problem you got, the NHS is full of rather useless middle managers, ladies called Sandra with hoop earrings and chunky plastic jewellery, who are on 120 grand a year to do nothing and to make sure that we still have snail mail and fax machines. They're still using fax machines in 2026. And you could say, oh, it's funding. I don't think so. The NHS gets about £180 billion a year. I might be the first public figure to say that we spend too much on the NHS. Actually, it's too much. There's always the argument for more money. It's the biggest money pit ever. I say give them less money and run it properly. Get rid of the diversity officers. Get rid of Sandra with her hoop earrings and her chunky plastic jewellery on 120 grand a year to have meetings and organise the Christmas party, and make sure that we're still using fax machines and snail mail. Get rid of Sandra and Bob, some other middle manager that does nothing. I don't understand why, in the world of artificial intelligence, in the world of email, in the world of internet, in the world of Zoom, that the budget for the NHS can't drop by 25 to 30%. If you could tell me that our taxes were going into operations, if you could tell me that our taxes were going into medication, if you could tell me that our taxes were going into medical technology, X-ray machines, ventilators, happy days, I'll pay my taxes. But I don't want to pay for Sandra in the middle management of the NHS, who does nothing except wear hoop earrings, chunky plastic jewellery, organise the Christmas party, organise the Easter egg hunt. Seriously, it's beyond a joke. We must fix our NHS and actually forget about the money. Cut the cash and let them cut their cloth. Because that's what you and I do. When our income goes down, what do? We start rationalising. We make tough choices for ourselves. Isn't it funny? Those who govern us and the public sector, they don't have to make such sacrifices. I mean, if you're in the public sector, for example, if you're a teacher, you're only going to get sacked if a child dies. That is the threshold. Was it last year, Phil Dave? I think 11 teachers were fired in the United Kingdom. Of the many thousands and of the many hundreds of thousands of pupils out there, I think 11 teachers were fired last year based upon their performance or their conduct. Are you telling me that all of the other teachers are good? No. The threshold in the public sector is wild. For a teacher to be sacked, literally there would need to be a homicide in the classroom. And even then, the unions would back the teacher, going, little Johnny, he had it coming. You couldn't make it up, could you? The public sector, catastrophe. The reason why, a few things, they're not based on market forces. So if the NHS was run by John Lewis or Amazon, there would be less waste. First of all, they'd get rid of Sandra immediately. Sandra is a middle manager on 120 grand who wears hoop earrings, cheap plastic chunky jewellery, and spends all day organising the Christmas party. That is what she does. And that's the great contribution to art. Did you know that less than 50% of the NHS budget goes on the treatment of patients for illness? You couldn't believe it, could you? If you hadn't known that fact, I've got no doubt that stat was on your radar. But if you had to guess, you would think it would be 80 or 85%, wouldn't you? You think, what, 15% administration, send a couple of emails, managers have to organise, the rota, the staff rota, maybe they've got to order the medication, that sort of thing. But no, it's over 50%, which is a sick joke. But it's the same across the public sector. Half of these people don't go into work. They've got work from home. Are you telling me that people that work in the public sector, civil servants, NHS middle managers, other figures across the public sector, are you telling me that they're hard at work on a Friday afternoon? I don't think so. Have you seen the pubs on a Thursday night? Absolutely packed. And those people are not in the private sector. It is civil servants and it is the middle managers in the NHS who know that they're down to a 4-day working week. A lot of them, by the way, don't go into work at all because they're off sick with anxiety. What is that? I've got anxiety. Looking at the state of the country, I've got PTSD. I've got ADHD. By the way, what on earth is ADHD? Engineer Dave, I thought ADHD was a band from the 80s that were very good. I believe they're Australian. They've had some big hits. Isn't that what it is? Oh, no, it's a serious illness now, which allows you to have benefits. Listen, if you think I'm an extremist, there may be people listening to this going, Dolan is extreme. No. I mean, this is the opinion of Tony Blair, no less, ex-Prime Minister, who said we've got to stop handing out benefits to people with AC/DC, which is not only a serious mental illness, but one of the best bands of the 20th century. You couldn't make it up. Folks, we need a revolution. It's so different in the private sector. Let me know. Give me a call, 03444991000. Do you work in the private sector? Is the culture in your company different to how it is in the public sector? I would humbly suggest it is. Because when it's a company, if Amazon ran the NHS, they wouldn't want to waste money because they're there to make money. It's all about the bottom line. So they would have the spreadsheet. If Amazon took over the NHS, they would have a spreadsheet and they would look at what's going in and what's coming out. And they would look at Sandra. Have I told you about Sandra? Sandra is the classic example of an NHS middle manager with hoop earrings, chunky plastic jewellery, who spends all day organising the Christmas party and the Easter egg hunt. That's her job. That's what she is. She's head of Easter eggs all year long, Sandra, on 120 grand a year. And she's quite often, she's off for Sandra's never there. You never see Sandra. Well, she works from home 2 days a week. Good luck with that. Yeah, works from home. Loose women and a large bottle of Pinot Grigio, which gets cracked open at around midday. That's what old Sandra's up to. And the other thing that Sandra does, she's got stress, so she'll be off. She's got a bad back as well. Oh my goodness, she's a martyr to her vertebrae. Folks, we need change, and it's a sick joke. But if Amazon ran the NHS, they'd have a spreadsheet and they'd look at, they'd see what's coming in, what's the income. That'll be our hard-earned taxes and then what's going out, and they would be focusing on patient care. Now, I don't really want to privatise the NHS, but what I would like it to have is the levels of accountability and efficiency of a business. Because businesses don't want to go bust, they protect their bottom line, and these public institutions should do the same, but they don't. And the reason why is because it's not their money. It's your money and it's my money, and in particular, it's Phil Dave's money, who had a very good year last year, paid a lot of tax. Phil Dave is doing very well. He's making money. He's a man of means, I cannot lie. And his tax bill, it actually reduced him to tears. And he was barely able to work. There was one day he came in, he paid so much tax, he looked visibly thinner. But our taxes, folks, it's a crime. It doesn't even touch the sides. So I say keep the public sector. I don't want to privatise everything, especially not healthcare, because if you get run over, may God forbid, by a bus, I want you to be peeled off the pavement and to be treated for free. Of course, it's not free. We all pay for it. But you get my point. Free at the point of need. I still believe in that. And you don't want the American system, which is a hot mess, and you've got to get your credit card out just to have, you know, to get 10 minutes with a doctor. That's not right. But it's not right what we've got now either. It ain't working. Britain ain't working. It needs a complete overhaul. The public sector, schools, hospitals, policing, they need to behave like a business. They need accountability. They need to focus on the bottom line. And I think the perfect place to start is to cut their money. Because that is what happens to businesses. If a business loses a client, they lose an income stream. What do, Phil Dave? They cut their cloth accordingly, do they not? If you've got an advertising agency and they lose the Nestle account, well, then they're going to have to slim down. They're going to have to find new business, but what they will do is cut their cloth. And they will cancel the Christmas party and they'll buy less posh food for the canteen, and they will let people go because they have to survive. But the public sector live on another planet. Mail on Sunday, Labour's meltdown. If Starmer had a plot, he's lost it. Veteran MP's withering verdict as Zombie PM faces stalking horse challenge and rivals circle number 10. Will a new leader save Labour? Simon Danchuk live in the studio next.
Is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk. It's lovely to have your company. Mark Dolan here on Breakfast right through until 9 a.m. In fact, 10. I'll do another hour. Let's do 4 hours. What the heck? Here are the front pages. Sunday Mirror, after election wipeout. We will help cut your bills, says the Prime Minister. PM to blitz cost of living as MP threatens to trigger leadership contest. Daily Star, hated PM recruits hated former PM to save his job. God help us all. Are you here for the party? Asks Keir Starmer. Yes, I heard we'd hired a real clown, says Gordon Brown. Mail on Sunday, Labour's meltdown. If Starmer had a plot, he has lost it. Sunday Express, this is Nigel Farage. The best is yet to come. And the Sunday Times, Starmer brings in Brown, but backbench rebellion is growing. Who better to reflect on this crisis within the governing party of the country than former Labour MP, now Reform supporter, broadcaster and entrepreneur Simon Danchuk. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Top of the morning. I bet you're glad to be out of that party. What a mess.
Absolute mess. I mean, what it's not doing is representing the people of Britain, is it? It's fighting amongst themselves. I mean, that's the travesty in all of this. All the focus is on whether Starmer will go, and I'm sure he will. It's just a matter of days.
Well, that's very interesting. Now, the latest intervention, the latest development is Catherine West, who is a North London MP, who has said that if somebody in the cabinet doesn't move against the Prime Minister by Monday, she will try to get the 80 names and she'll make a bid for the leadership. Now, this is not a woman, is it, that seeks to be Prime Minister. What she wants to do is orchestrate the dismissal of Starmer.
Yes, exactly. She's putting herself up as a stalking horse. I've heard her described as a lone wolf. I've heard her described as eccentric.
Can I also tell you, I've heard her described as a stalking donkey, which is maybe a bit harsh.
Oh, goodness. But she doesn't have a bad reputation. She's not very well known, but she doesn't have a bad reputation within Parliament. She used to be a Foreign Office Minister. Perhaps she's a bit upset from having been sacked from that role. You never know.
For sure.
But there is a suggestion she will get the numbers. And this has put the cat amongst the pigeon, because if she gets the nomination of 80 Labour MPs, then it's game on. There's a challenger to Starmer, and that would mean that Angela Rayner or Wes Streeting would have to throw the hat in the ring, but they would have to come out fighting.
Well, this is it. She would be forcing their hand. What is stopping the likes of Wes Streeting from moving? Because surely this is an historic opportunity for someone like Streeting or Rayner, particularly with Andy Burnham not in the House of Commons.
Yeah, that's why it's so important for Angela Rayner or Wes Streeting to strike very soon. Burnham's claiming, or his team are claiming around him, that he can get a seat and he can make a comeback. But all of that is going to take time, and I don't think he's got it, to be quite honest. The reason that Streeting and Rayner probably aren't really committing at this moment in time is that they don't want to be the first out there running for it. But I think they're going to be. Catherine West, I think, is calling their bluff. I think they are going to have to. And you'll recall Heseltine challenging Margaret Thatcher many years ago, and so the one who wields the axe initially isn't the one that wins the race. Mixing my metaphors, I think, there. And so that's the concern that they will have. They think that if they come out first challenging Starmer, then they may well, get blamed for having initiated the leadership battle.
But you don't think that political stalemate saves Starmer? You don't think he comes through the middle because no one can make a plan?
Yeah, no, that's what's been saving him in recent times, isn't it? That, well, who's going to replace him? There's nobody ready to replace him. Andy Burnham isn't in Parliament. Wes Streeting has been tainted by the Mandelson affair. Angela Rayner has been tainted by her tax affairs. So who replaces him? And that's managed to save him so far. But these local elections have been a referendum on the Labour Party and certainly on Starmer. And the result of that referendum is we want change at the centre of government.
Most definitely. What do you think is going through Starmer's mind now as he wakes up on a Sunday morning and sees these horrible headlines?
He's a peculiar character, isn't he? I've never known anybody quite like Keir Starmer. He seems quite resilient, doesn't he, in many respects. he seems to ignore popular opinion. Most leading politicians who you might consider to be, good at doing that job are usually very much in touch with public opinion. Starmer isn't, and that's some of his fault. So he will ignore it. I think he'll be ignoring these headlines. He'll think it's just fluff and, media hype, and he'll be determined to go on. But everybody around him in Parliament, Labour MPs, clearly want rid of him. They've seen the results, and they know that their seats are on the line. I mean, half the cabinet would lose the seats if people voted in a general election as they did in these local elections on Thursday.
Do you know Andy Burnham personally?
Yeah, no, I know most of the characters that we're talking about today. I'm not a big fan of Andy Burnham and his politics. He swaps and changes position on a whole range of things.
He's a complete charlatan, isn't he? He stands for nothing. He was a New Labour centrist dad in the 2000s. Suddenly he's Jeremy Corbyn. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, no, that's my major concern with him. He flips and flops all over the place, and that's not what...
And it's not because he's been on a journey, is it?
No, it's because he thinks that will help get him elected as leader of the Labour Party, so he took a particular position. He was a Blairite to get on during the Blair years. Now he's moved to the left because that would help him get on as Mayor of Greater Manchester. Now he'll probably come back a bit to the centre because that'll help him try and become Labour leader again. I mean, this is not the sort of leadership that Britain needs, especially at this time.
Andy Burnham believes in Andy Burnham, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I really do believe
If he was
that.
made of chocolate, he'd eat himself.
Yes, he probably would. I like that. Yeah, I mean, this must be
I don't wish to attack him, but I just do consider him to be one of those preening narcissists that politics produces. I just have to tell you that's my honest view of him. There are others, there are plenty of people in the House of Commons, in the Labour Party, who are principled. I don't really think Burnham is like that. I think he's just a very ambitious guy.
Totally.
My reading of it.
Yeah, totally ambitious. I think this will be his third time of going to be Labour leader, and he's been rejected on previous occasions. He's not even in Parliament. The reason he left Parliament was to advance his career. He wanted some leadership role, and so went to Greater Manchester. I mean, it's all about Burnham. It's not about the people. It's not about the public. It's all about Andy Burnham.
And obviously he's a presentable guy, and he is a good communicator, and has a much better instinct for politics than the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
But would he be great in number 10? Would he transform the fortunes of the country? Could he steer the ship out of choppy waters?
No, I think he is a better communicator, if we're being objective about this. He is a good communicator. He does sort of relate to people, and in Greater Manchester, if I'm giving him credit, he has connected with the electorate. He's delivered one or two things around the buses and local transport, etc., that have been well received. But is it enough? I think he'll flip and he'll flop, and that's not the sort of leadership the country needs at this time. I think it needs some really strong leadership. If I had to choose somebody, I would choose Wes Streeting. This is out of a bad lot. What we don't want is Ed Miliband or Angela Rayner, or, in my opinion, Andy Burnham.
So what do you think could Wes bring to the party?
Well, I think he is more centrist, there's no doubt about that. He's centre-right within the Labour Party, perhaps a little bit sort of Blairite, but he's been seen within the Health Department to have run a good ship. He's got some waiting lists down. I think he's very much focused on delivery. He's an excellent communicator. I do believe he's close to having his finger on the pulse of public opinion. So he would be, I think he'd be tougher on illegal immigration. With somebody like Shabana Mahmood in there, I think it would really tilt the Labour Party and its politics within the country. I think it would make a difference. It still wouldn't satisfy me. They wouldn't be tough enough on illegal immigration, but they'd move things slightly on the dial towards the right.
Well, that obviously would be an improvement on what we have at the moment. And Wes Streeting is quite politically brave, isn't he? So before the election, he said that the NHS should not be a sacred cow and that it needs to be more efficient. He also said quite recently that we should cut welfare spending to invest in the military. Again, noises you wouldn't expect from a prominent Labour politician, but encouraging.
Yes, very encouraging, and that's probably why he won't become leader of the Labour Party and Prime Minister of Great Britain, because the members of the Labour Party...
They don't want to hear that, do they?
No, they don't. But they don't. The membership do not reflect the greater public, do they? And that's the issue and problem that the country's got.
We have a voice note courtesy of Nick. If we're ready, Dave, let's take it away.
Morning, Mark. It's Nick from Loughborough. No, a new leader won't save Labour. The best we can hope for is that any new leader is going to be further to the left than Starmer will further hasten their demise, and finally we can get rid of this ghastly administration. Have a good Sunday, Mark.
Nick, thank you for that. Here's another voice note from Peter.
Good morning, Mark. Well, the unbelievable's happening. Gordon Brown, of all people, to bring back in. The man who sold our gold reserve off on the cheap and who took all our taxpayers' money to bail out rich bankers. And we never got that back either, did we? What an absolute mire the man Starmer is in. As to calling those old has-beens, well, probably never was, you know, to help him get out of whatever street he's in. The man has had it. He needs, instead of putting headlines on the "We'll help you cut your bills," he needs to resign. How is he going to help us cut our bills? They said that from the very beginning. And look what's happened now. Look, even without this war, right, fuel was going sky high. Even without this war, food was going sky high. Even without this war, our council tax was going up, up, up. Labour need to resign. They've ruined the country yet again. And will there be another note left? Sorry, there's no money left. Well, I bet you it's worse than no money left this time. Have a nice day, Mark.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you so much for that, Peter. Coming up, more front pages. And is this just the beginning for Nigel Farage? 6:31, Talk Breakfast.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Listening to Talk Breakfast, Dolan's Dispatch on the way, plus more brilliant guests, speaking of which, live in the studio. The fantastic former Labour MP and now Reform UK supporter, entrepreneur and broadcaster and best-selling author, Simon Danchuk. And Simon, front page of The Express, the best is yet to come. Victorious Farage says Reform now true party of the working people. He warned Starmer against forging disastrous closer ties with Europe. Has Nigel Farage got what the Americans call the big mo, momentum?
I do believe he has. I think this is a great result. People were talking about reform before these local elections. People were talking about reform, sort of, you know, reducing their lead a little bit in the opinion polls. But this has really given them a significant boost. They must be delighted with these results. I mean, they're winning right across the country, not just in certain pockets of England. Scotland, Wales, they're doing well. All over England, they're doing well. They must be really pleased.
Is there a glass ceiling electorally which is limited to Leave areas? Can he win Remain voters?
Well, I think the public have moved on from this leave or remain debate. Brexit's been done. People don't want to be going deeply back into Europe as Keir Starmer seems to think they do, and that illustrates where Keir Starmer's got a problem, in that he has this particular world view of us being closer and going back into Europe. He's always believed in that, but the public aren't with him. But that whole debate's been done. That's some of the reason that people aren't supporting him. So I think Reform can win votes right in any constituency, almost, in any area. I think they're doing very well indeed. And people vote, whether they're crossing from Conservative or crossing from Labour, they're going to Reform.
Does Nigel need to dilute the message at all in order to win a few Lib Dem and moderate Tories votes?
That's a good question. I don't think he does. I think the feeling out there amongst the majority of the public is that they want illegal immigration tackling, they want the welfare bill dramatically reducing, they want people getting back into employment, getting off benefits and into employment. These are really strong issues that are playing out. They want politicians who back our military, and these are key messages that Nigel and Reform campaign on. And I think there's a majority of the public out there, as we've seen over the last few days, that back those messages.
Most definitely, I agree with you. It's interesting, the question this morning is a simple one. Can a new leader save the Labour Party? Well, Starmer thinks that bringing back Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman will do the job. Is that going to work? Derek's in Manchester. Hello, Derek.
Hello, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Happy Sunday to you, Derek. What do you think about this? I mean, the appointment of Harriet Harman as minister, well, not minister, but someone to what's she going to do? She's doing a champion of women and girls' rights and safety. Yeah,
she was campaigning to lower the age of sex for young girls down to 10 years old years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. Gordon Brown sold off the gold reserves at a very, very knockdown price. Now, obviously, there was no backhanders involved, but he sold it off a knockdown price just at the time it was at its lowest possible value. How on earth is bringing people like that back into government going to do any good? It just goes from bad to worse, doesn't it?
Well, Derek, I agree with you. Just to give you and my audience and Simon the figures, old Gordon Brown did such a bad job selling off our gold reserves. He warned the market in advance that he was going to buy the world gold reserve. Do you know how much it's cost us, Derek? I've got the figure for how much we would have pocketed.
About 30 billion.
30 to 40 billion.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's not just it. It's absolutely everything. And what the biggest problem we've got with politics, and even on if we had a new government tomorrow, we've got the same problem. If we got a new government that was absolutely incompetent, or even, dare I say, totally corrupt, as I think this one is, then, we've got the same problem. We can't get rid of them. We can't do anything about it. There should be some sort of an emergency recall with Parliament. There's got to be, because otherwise we're just no better a situation. Because if you think about it, 5 years, what this government can do to this, or what it's already done in 2 years, think about what any government could do to this country in a 5-year period, and it's too long. It's not the fact that the period's too long, because they do need a sustained period, obviously. But when they're obviously doing bad and the public think they're doing bad, when a large percentage of the public think they're doing bad, there should be some way of recalling them. This can't go on forever like this.
Well, I agree. I mean, Derek, do you think that a Starmer replacement would be better, worse, or the same?
Oh, well, it's going to be worse. I mean, there's no two ways about that, because what have you got? I know he's totally inept, but at the end of the day, what else have you got?
Wait a minute, Derek. No, wait a minute. You've got Andy Burnham, who's the new. He's the second coming. I heard you're in Manchester. I heard he walks on water. He was at a party once, and he turned the water into wine. Did you not hear about Andy Burnham doing that?
I know exactly what Andy Burnham did. He closed down an inquiry into the rape gangs on the little girls that were raped around the Manchester area. I know exactly what Andy Burnham did.
Tell us about that. What's the allegation there, Derek?
Well, the Greater Manchester Police were opening an investigation into the I say alleged rape gangs.
Yeah.
We know it happened. I'm going back years, and it was starved of funds by Andy Burnham and virtually closed down by the back door.
And do you think that was politically motivated? I will stress there's no evidence that it happened, but go on.
Of course it was, because half the Labour councils were invited. If you look at where these rape gangs were occurring all over the country, you'll find that an awful lot of them were in Labour-controlled councils, and they were involved up to the neck, especially places like Rochdale, where there were all Muslim councillors in Rochdale. Half of them were involved in the gangs.
Well, yeah. When you say involved in, as you say, these crimes and alleged crimes happened in Labour-dominated areas. Simon, you're the perfect person to ask about this. I'd love you to respond to Derek's remarks about Andy Burnham and an alleged grooming gangs cover-up.
Well, there's no doubt about it. You'll recall that I was the MP for Rochdale from 2010 to 2017, and I called out the whole issue in terms of...
You were very brave, and you got pelters for it at the time.
Yeah, nobody within the Labour Party appreciated me raising the fact that the perpetrators were Muslim and Pakistani. I was told to not repeat that sort of thing, which I ignored, I'm pleased to say.
Yeah.
But I think Derek makes some good points about Andy Burnham in relation to these grooming gangs, and something of a whitewash, really. They could have had an inquiry into what was going on in Oldham, what was going on in Rochdale, what was going on in Manchester, and Derek's right, these were Labour-run authorities. And yet the investigation that took place really didn't get to the root cause of these matters. It was, in my view, and I've done a lot of work around this issue, it was something of a whitewash. So with that, I absolutely agree with Derek.
Well, Derek, what do you think's going to happen? Do you think Starmer's going to cling on?
Oh, he's not for going, is it? I'm hoping, with all hope, that he's that stubborn that the Labour Party try and force him out, and in return he decides he's going to call a general election because he'd rather do that than go. And that's what I'm hoping will happen. But the only problem is, with that, I don't think that... Rupert Lowe did very well in Great Yarmouth. Unfortunately, they haven't had time to organise for the rest of the country because, as much as Reform are doing well, I really do not trust Nigel Farage.
And why don't you trust him, Derek?
Because his only reason for getting into politics in the first place was to destroy the British National Party, who at the time were the only ones talking about the grooming gangs that were happening. They actually exposed it, but no one seems to give them credit for that.
Well, Derek, I appreciate your fascinating points that you've made, and do call me again soon. Brilliant conversation. Go and have a cracking weekend. Derek in Manchester there, commenting across a range of issues. So Nigel Farage tells The Express this morning, Simon Danchuk, the best is yet to come, that we've only just started. Is he right? What do Reform UK need to do in the years ahead in the run-up to a general election?
That's a really good question. I was just thinking there, they've still got a lot of work to do. They're still not as sharp as some of the other political parties when it comes to campaigning. They're winning these votes. Some of it's because they've modernised their campaigning machine, and it's certainly got much better. But it isn't as good as Labour's. It isn't as good as the Liberal Democrats. It probably isn't as good as the Conservatives. So in tough areas, if they want to get over the line and get a majority in the House of Commons, they really have to get their vote out. They can't just rely on an air war. They can't just rely on a media war to get the vote out. They have to have people on the ground who get the voters to go and vote for them on the day. And so that's a challenge, no doubt about that. And then around policy, and they're beginning to do some of this. They're developing policies that really appeal. You'll recall just before these local elections, Zia Youssef came out with this idea of putting resettlement centres in green MP areas. I mean that really caught the public's attention. and this idea of putting them in resettlement centres before they are deported. So they're beginning to put some meat on the bone in terms of policy. They need to do more of that as well.
And what do you think about Reform UK bringing into play the idea of deportations, potentially 1 million people in the course of the next Parliament? Is that a welcome move?
Yes, from my perspective, I really think it is a welcome
Because even
move.
just a year ago, those words wouldn't leave most people's lips, would they?
Yeah, and all credit to Nigel for having moved the dial in terms of debate. You know, at one stage, as you say, you couldn't talk about some issues, but the whole agenda has changed, and I'm pleased to have pleased to see that. You know, in polite conversation, you couldn't mention illegal immigrants. You couldn't even call them illegal immigrants at one time, but that's what they are: people breaking into Britain, and the British public have had enough of that, and they want people deported who are clearly here to do no good. And just returning to that issue of the rape gangs and in Rochdale, I campaigned fervently to try and get the perpetrators sent back to Pakistan, and all of them are still here.
So bad.
So bad.
Some of whom committing crimes to this day.
And, you know, their defence has been paid for with legal aid, paid by the British taxpayer. Absolutely outrageous. People have had enough of that. So in terms of deportations, let's start with those foreign criminals who've been committing crimes. Lots of them being paid for by us in our prisons.
Can a new leader save the Labour Party? This is Talk Breakfast.
Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Can a new leader save the Labour Party? With me live in the studio, former Labour MP and now Reform UK's reporter, broadcaster, best-selling author and entrepreneur Simon Danchuk. Simon, what do you make of Keir Starmer's response to the election rout this week?
Well, his main response has been to appoint Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman, you know, bring them back from the past. And the strange thing there, if you were a Labour MP, and there are 403 Labour MPs, what Starmer has done is put two fingers up to them Labour MPs and said, listen, I can't rely on any of you, you haven't got enough talent, I need to bring people in from the past. I mean, it's so insulting to Labour MPs. They must be furious about that. Or, you know, most MPs want a job in government. You know,
Sure.
that's what they're in it for. And yet they've been rejected. And the idea is that we've got to bring Gordon Brown back. And I have to make the point about Gordon Brown and Keir Starmer. The only person worse than Keir Starmer in terms of being able to connect with the general public that I've ever known in 40 years of British politics is Gordon Brown. I mean, he's even worse at connecting with the British public than Keir Starmer is. So the idea of, not least from people listeners will recall, the Gillian Duffy incident, which happened in Rochdale I was the candidate there in the run-up to the 2010 general election. I have a phone call from the Prime Minister's office. Gordon Brown is coming to help you win the election. He turns up weeks before and starts having an argument with Gillian Duffy. I've been knocking on doors for 3 years in the hope of winning this seat for Labour because it were a Liberal MP. And well, the rest is history, isn't it? He makes a complete mess of it, calls her a bigoted woman and all the rest of it. Cannot understand working class people at all. And yet Keir Starmer finds him fit to bring back. You couldn't make it up.
You couldn't make it up. Probably Tony Blair next. Nigel says, good morning, Mark, and hello, Simon. The Uni Party don't get it. They've turned people elsewhere. They've ruined traditional British politics. They're to blame, and they will not be forgiven, irrelevant of their policies. Is Nigel Brown, this is the guy that's messaged the show, is Nigel right about the Uni Party being dead?
Well, I do think politics has really developed, hasn't it, in recent times. This isn't just two political parties fighting each other anymore. People are still disenchanted with the Conservatives. They didn't do as badly as they might have done, and Kemi Badenoch's been doing a little bit better as Conservative leader, but people are still not enthusiastic about what they did previously in government. So they have problems. Labour have got significant problems. Other parties are involved, no doubt about that, whether it's the Greens. And the problem for Labour is that you've got the Liberal Democrats, Labour, the Greens, the Islamic independents all fighting over the same voters. Whereas you've only got Reform and Conservative fighting over centre-right sort of voters. And so the vote on the left is splintering significantly. That doesn't help Labour at all.
Whether Starmer stays or he's replaced by likely a more left-wing Prime Minister, what do you think is the prognosis for the country between now and the next general election? No one's going to call a snap election. Turkeys don't vote for Christmas, do they? So we're stuck with Labour for 3 years. What do you think could be the picture of the country by the time we have a general election?
Oh, I mean, people are already furious. I think a change of leader does move us closer to having a general election, actually. I don't think we'll go a full 3 years. And one of the callers there was concerned that we don't have any mechanism for getting rid of a very popular, unpopular government. And I don't know how you could change the electoral system to make that possible. But the issue is that if we change leader, then there will be immense pressure on the new Labour leader to call a general election because they won't have a mandate. And people will say, oh, well, the Conservatives did it and didn't, have a general election. But people will recall that these Labour politicians throughout the Conservative period were constantly calling for a general election. So it would be double standards for them not to have a general election. I think the pressure would be immense for them to call one. And West Street, or whoever else takes over, would want the mandate. They would want to go to the country. They'll get a bit of a bounce because they're not Keir Starmer. And they might just think, right, next May, I'm going to go to the country, get some mandate and try and limit the losses to Labour, perhaps try and hold on a little bit. A bit like John Major did after taking over from Margaret Thatcher.
Which, of course, was successful, and the Tories won against the odds. Here's a voice note from Damon.
Good morning, Mark Dolan from Wigan. The Labour Party is in complete disaster mode at the moment, and Keir Starmer needs to be gone. I don't know who's going to take over, because I've got no idea who's going to take over, because they're all as bad as each other. And I do get what Simon is saying about, and other politicians and other advisors saying about getting people back into work. The problem is there's no jobs in Britain. This is a major stumbling block. Businesses are closing every day. So when politicians, advisors turn around and say it's time to get Britain back into work, how are we going to do it? Because the jobs are drying up thick and fast. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Damon. And Damon is so right to point out that we do need to make sure that it pays to work in this country. There's no point taking people off welfare if there's no job to go to.
Well, the problem is that Rachel Reeves absolutely decimated British business. I mean, Damon's right in that respect. Business have been closing left, right and centre. Hospitality's struggling. Manufacturing is struggling. And I know that Damon's from Wigan. I mean, Labour have been... That's been a Labour stronghold for years. They were absolutely trounced in the local elections. Reform won loads of seats there. I mean, Lisa Nandy, I think, is a Wigan MP. That used to be Andy Burnham's area. Wigan, and the idea that these Labour MPs are going to hold on to the seats, they don't have a cat in hell's chance. You know, if Wigan is falling from Labour to Reform, they're going to really struggle.
Mary has called the show. Good morning, Mary.
Morning, Mark. You know what was one of the most shocking things was that Starmer, after this fiasco, crept out of the back door of number 10, the British Prime Minister, out the back door and was hustled away to Chequers. Didn't face the media, didn't face the people. And as for Gordon Brown, this was the man who destroyed the private pensions.
Well, you raise a good point, Mary. On what planet are Gordon Brown, Simon Danchuk, and Harriet Harman the answer to this government's problems?
No, I just don't know where this where this solution has come from. If the question, I don't know what the question is. If the answer is Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman, I just don't know what the question is. And I
It
don't
hasn't
know.
got echoes of bringing Mandelson back in a way. It's as a tapping into the kind of the all-stars of New Labour.
Yeah, that's right, but it doesn't wash, does it? And bringing back Mandelson completely backfired. Has he learnt nothing? I mean, and this view is not just my view, it's the view of Labour MPs. Labour MPs cannot understand the logic in bringing Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman back.
Mary, what about Nigel Farage? Speaking to the Sunday Express, he has said the best is yet to come. Can Nigel Farage grow his support between now and the next election and become Prime Minister?
Well, I hope so, because I just feel that we need something different. We can't go on as we are, bouncing between the two main parties that have achieved nothing. We just seem to be going up a dead-end road otherwise.
So, Mary, do you see Reform UK as a worthy roll of the dice? Let's take a chance. Can't be as bad as the other two.
Yes, and I feel very sorry that Rupert Lowe is not sort of joining. He's quite convinced that he's going to win the next election, and I think it's a bit of a destructive force, and I feel very sorry about that because I liked him, but I just think we've no other alternative. We've got to have something different.
Mary, are there any figures in the Labour Party who could save this government, save the country?
Well, there must be, I don't know, somewhere in the back benches, is there not a more mature MP, Labour MP that we don't hear of?
I know, maybe someone like Graham Stringer who talks a lot of sense.
Yes. This woman who's talking about calling it out, putting her name forward,
Catherine West.
Is she? I've got to give her credit. You know, I thought, well, there's a woman who's got some principle. Mum, I've never heard of her before. And there must be others, but I just think they're a busted flush now because thanks to Starmer and his association with so many shady people, I just feel, I don't know how he's got where he is.
No. Mary, what are your thoughts for the country? How are we going to survive the next 3 years, do you think?
Well, if it lasts 3 years, I just really think there's going to be no going back because he'll have signed us up to the EU. He's already damaged so many things, and I just can see it only getting worse.
Mary,
he's a bitter man, so I'm hoping if push comes to shove, he gets so angry that he does decide to call an election. As Simon was saying, they were very quick all through the years calling for a general election when the Tories were there. Put their money where their mouth is. And Angela Rayner was the main one. And where they've got Harriet Harman from, I mean, she was never any good at anything.
Mary, brilliant call. Have an excellent Sunday. We will speak soon. How irreversible, Simon, could the damage be from this Labour government so that, let's say Farage wins the next election, to a degree his hands are tied, a broken economy, EU membership, any number of ways in which the country has been diminished between now and then?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of work to be done, isn't there? There's no doubt about that. And the economy is being ruined by Rachel Reeves. Businesses in uproar in terms of how the economy.
And there's just no way it's going to get better, is there, with these policies? How can it? You're in business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And business people are in despair about it. There's, absolutely. Relations with the US are at an all-time low. Tariffs, the economy is being driven down. Taxes are going up. Jobs aren't being created, as Damon in Wigan was pointing out. Jobs aren't being created because tax levels are far too high. And why are taxes being raised? So that loads of money can be spent on welfare. I mean, the recipe that Labour have concocted is absolutely disastrous. So there's going to be a lot to be done, whoever wins the next general election.
It is a real concern, is it not? You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Our question this morning is a simple one. Can a new leader save the Labour Party? And just coining that phrase on the front page of Sunday Express, the best is yet to come. Is the best yet to come for Nigel Farage? Can he grow his support and win the next general election? Let me know your thoughts about that. So much to get through. We have our first Labour MP now that has thrown her hat into the ring for the Labour leadership. Starmer under pressure now, considering his position. Can he cling on? Will the alternative be worse? Let me know your thoughts. My phone number is 0344 499 1000. Text the word TALK and your message to 87222. So much to get through. A very big hour to come. Can a new leader save the Labour Party? This is Talk Breakfast.
At 11:16 this morning, two men, aged 76 and 34, were attacked on Highfield Avenue in Barnet. They suffered stab wounds in the attack and are now being looked after in hospital.
We need to make sure that when people carry out these activities, they feel the full force of the law. People think they can get away with this. The person who firebombed a few weeks ago is out on bail. That's not full force of the law.
This crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It's not enough to simply say we stand with Jewish communities. Of course we do, but we must show it and act it. And the responsibility lies with each and every one of us, because it is our fight too.
Let's stop importing people from countries where anti-Semitism is the norm. And if our London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, in his infinite wisdom and belief in diversity, thinks that's the sort of diverse view that it's okay to have on the streets of London and the police don't get involved, don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
You keep getting proven right every single time. Jews are not safe in this country.
Well, absolutely. No one can be surprised or feeling shocked that this happened. No Jew certainly is. I mean, we had Zach Polanski last week saying this was just a perceived threat. Well, we can see this isn't any perception. This is real. This is happening on the streets. This isn't just an anti-Semitic terror attack. This is an attack on Britain, on the Western liberal democracy and values.
The first politician that uses the word shocking, I might just go and throttle him, because this is anything but shocking. It's the most expected thing is almost overdue, if you ask me. Because, I mean, I just left Israel last week. I thought it would be the last time we were woken up by explosions, but clearly not.
The Jewish community is our community, and their safety is our safety. And we have to make it absolutely clear, robust, strong leadership, and this has to stop, because otherwise it's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Our plan is a complete step change in how we protect communities, moving beyond piecemeal responses to a sustained nationwide effort, one that ensures that people across the United Kingdom can live freely and without fear.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
3 minutes past 7, top of the morning. This is Talk Breakfast. Happy Sunday, one and all. Mark Dolan with you through until 10 a.m. A massive show this morning, and breaking as we come on air, Starmer in meltdown, disarray in number 10 as the Prime Minister fights for his political life. Is it now end of days for the most unpopular Prime Minister in the history of modern polling? And as the governing party descend into a bloody civil war, with the first Labour MP throwing her hat into the ring for the leadership, the problems in the country mount. Rising inflation, rising unemployment, a hollowed-out military, sky-high energy prices, non-existent growth, spiralling debts. The government are taking chunks out of each other whilst Rome burns. So what next for the country and for the party? My question to you this morning is a simple one. Can a new leader save the Labour Party? 0344 499 1000 is my phone number. Rory is taking your calls today. Text the word talk in your message to 87222 or leave us a voice note. You can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online. This is now a TV show as well. So see my brilliant guests and watch Dolan's Dispatch. Head to YouTube, search Talk, and up we pop. It's all about your opinions. What do you think about this, folks? Can a new leader save the Labour Party? And is the best yet to come for Nigel Farage and Reform UK? Can they win the next general election? So much to get through. As the saying goes, let's talk. And we'll kick off with the front pages. We start with the Sunday Express. That aforementioned headline. The best is yet to come. Victorious Nigel Farage says Reform now the true party of the working people. The leader of Reform warns Starmer against forging disastrous closer ties with Europe. Mail on Sunday, Labour's meltdown. If Starmer had a plot, he has lost it. Daily Star, God help us all. Hated Prime Minister recruits hated former Prime Minister to save his job. Sunday Mirror, after election wipeout, Keir Starmer says, we will help you cut your bills. It's rather contradictory, isn't it, to have a lot of policies that cause inflation, which is borrowing, public spending, unaffordable pay rises in the public sector. All of that is inflationary, raising the minimum wage. All of that causes inflation. Net zero, big cause of inflation because of energy prices. You've got a government that has policies which cause inflation, and it's now telling you that it's going to do everything it can to reduce inflation. Make it make sense. It is a bit like putting Count Dracula in charge of the nation's blood supplies. Sunday Times, Starmer brings in Brown, but backbench rebellion is growing. Now, live in the studio, I'm delighted to welcome a very good friend of mine, former Labour MP, now Reform UK supporter, international businessman, broadcaster and author Simon Danczuk. Hello, Simon.
Good to be with you.
Very good to see you. Can a new leader save the Labour Party? Is anything better than Starmer?
I think some of the potential candidates to be leader are better than Starmer. I think Wes Streeting would be better, if I'm being objective about this. Would it save Labour? I don't think it would. Even Wes Streeting can't save Labour now. I think they're that far down in terms of public support that they are out the door. It could be argued, and it probably will be argued at some stage, that Keir Starmer has killed the Labour Party. I mean, he's bringing it to its knees. There's no doubt about that.
Keir Starmer has killed the Labour Party.
Yeah, that is the stage that we are at. It's becoming a fringe political party. Nobody has any time for it, and it's all down to Keir Starmer and nobody else. I mean, that's the reality of it.
It takes a lot to stop me in my tracks, but that is a zinger of a line at 7 minutes past 7 in the morning. Keir Starmer has killed the Labour Party. Could that mean, therefore, Simon, hypothetically, that this is the last Labour government that we'll see?
For a long time. No doubt about that. I came into Parliament in 2010. Gordon Brown, talking about Gordon Brown, he just lost the general election, and by coincidence, that's when I came into Parliament.
You did well to win that seat.
Yeah, there were only 2 Labour gains in the 2010 general election, one of which was Rochdale, the one that I won. But
I'm assuming people voted Labour because they liked you, but not the party.
Yeah, I think so, and I campaigned really hard. I was very much a local MP, campaigned on all the issues that were important to the town, not on the issues that, you know, that people thought were important nationally. And I think that's how I managed to win it by a majority of 880 out of 79,000 votes.
Amazing.
So it was one heck of an election. But the point I'm making is that they've been out of government since 2010. They've had all this time to prepare, haven't they? 14 years in opposition. They win a general election finally in 2024, and look at the disaster. They learnt nothing in opposition. They did nothing to prepare for government when in opposition. And we now realise they picked the wrong leader to take them into the 2024 general election, and it's been downhill from there.
Well, it's absolutely fascinating, isn't it, Simon? Your political career, you're very, very good at winning elections against the odds, because you won in 2010 and then again you won in 2015.
Yeah, that's right. Well, the majority went from 880 to 12,500. Yeah, no, we were doing well.
Which is pretty spectacular, because, you know, 2015 still wasn't great for Labour. So you know how to win an election. Are any of the possible candidates to replace Starmer election-winning material? Because that needs to be the focus of the party. What do political parties exist to do, Simon? They exist to win elections. Is there anyone in their ranks that can do that in 3 years' time?
You know, it is interesting, isn't it? They bring Gordon Brown back. That's what Starmer's just done. He lost the 2010 general election, so they brought somebody back who can't win elections.
A horrible campaign in which he attacked a member of the public in your constituency, Gillian Duffy,
absolutely,
who was a lovely old lady, and she actually spoke for millions when she said immigration is too high, and he referred to her as a bigoted woman.
Yeah, and they've learnt nothing.
Man of the people, eh?
Oh, goodness me. So he can't win elections. Brown couldn't win a general election in 2010. And then another central figure in this current Labour government is Ed Miliband. He couldn't win a general election in 2015. So Starmer has surrounded himself by people who are just so out of touch with the general public. I mean, make this make sense.
They're all metropolitan elitists, aren't they?
That's the problem.
Starmer, Mandelson, Blair, Miliband, Brown.
Yeah, and that's why I say that Keir Starmer is killing the Labour Party, because it's not the workers' party anymore. It doesn't represent hard-working families. It represents welfare. It represents this North London Labour elite.
Yeah.
We were talking about Dan Carden, Labour MP on Merseyside, very much blue Labour, and he talks about it now being the welfare party. It's the lanyard class. You know, these people who wear lanyards around the neck. You know, people in public services. The Labour Party represents a very small group of the electorate, the general public. It can't relate to hard-working people anymore, and Starmer's led the charge in terms of that development of the party.
Well, you've really, really stopped me in my tracks. I mean, that is a bombshell line from a man that knows Westminster politics intimately well. Simon Danchuk, on record at 7 minutes past 7 in the morning, it's now 7:11, saying that actually Keir Starmer has killed the Labour Party. Your reaction, 03444991000. Is that it? Will that be the last Labour government in, I don't know, the next 2 decades? Here's a voice note from Perry.
Morning, Mark. For me, it's so unfair, this system we have in this country. I know most politicians, you know, they have broken promises. They promise the earth, then when they get into power, they don't deliver. But as for Starmer, he really did look us in the face and blatantly lie to us. I mean, I remember, you know, let's not forget, Keir Starmer was the head of prosecutions. He was the top of his chain when it comes to the legal system in this country, a top UK barrister. And I was told by a top UK barrister, being Keir Starmer, that if my community tax goes up 1 single penny, I can put it in the bin. Now, that wasn't advice from someone down a pub. I was advised by a top UK barrister that I could throw my community tax bill in the bin if it went up 1 penny. Was he lying, or was he giving out disinformation?
Perry, what a brilliant point, and you're right to hold the Prime Minister to account in that fashion. Here's another voice note from Bert.
Morning, Mark. Keir Starmer bringing back Harriet Hasbeen and Gordon Bullion Brown to central government. It won't make a jot of difference. Keir Starmer is yesterday's man. He's a has-been, he's a goner, and the backbenchers are conspiring to get rid of him. Have a smashing Sunday. Bert from Tooting.
Bert, thank you for that. And last but not least for now, lovely Laura.
Morning, Mark. Laura in Wiltshire. No, I don't think a change in leadership is going to save the Labour Party. The Labour Party's problem is its policies. Keir Starmer is awful, an awful, terrible, weak, lying man. But just changing the leader, I'm afraid it goes to the old adage, you mess your pants and only change your shirt. It really won't work. Unfortunately, we've got another couple of years of these absolute morons running our country. I just hope that they don't get too many more appalling policies through and change our country irreversibly. Great show.
Thank you, Laura. We love your voice notes. Keep them coming, Bert as well, and everybody. The voice notes are absolutely priceless. And what the voice notes also are, Simon Danchuk, are highly informed and right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the public get it.
Yeah, and a number of those were pointing out that Starmer is seen as a liar. He tells lies, and it's not just, the listeners that say that. Well-regarded broadcasters like Andrew Neil has written columns saying he has never known a Prime Minister tell as many lies as what Starmer tells. And that really feeds through. The public see a Prime Minister who isn't straight with them, who isn't truthful with them. And that is really toxic for Starmer. I think that's some of... there's a lot going on in terms of Starmer, but that is crucial in terms of his demise. He's not being straight with the public.
And I think it proves that the governing elite think we're stupid. If they're going to be so duplicitous and so dishonest, well, they can only think we're mugs. Well, we're not. Yeah. And that was shown in May when this party was swiftly rejected.
Yeah, that is exactly what's happened, And I think the British public, culturally, are prepared to give people time, prepared to give people a chance, very respectful, but you can only push them so far. And what we've seen in these local elections results is that the British public have been pushed too far. They've had enough. Get out of power. That's what they're saying to Starmer and Labour.
Now, Simon, we know you're a busy man. It's very cheeky to ask you on air, but could you stick around for a moment or two?
Yeah, absolutely.
We'd love to keep you, if you don't mind. It's an absolute heaven to have you in the studio. Also, down the line, one of the finest journalists in the country as well. So it really is the Broadcasting All-Stars this morning. So much to get through, but my question this morning is a simple one. Can a new leader save Labour? 7:15, this is Talk Breakfast.
The Crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Lovely to have your company. It is 7:19. Vinny has messaged the show and said, Mark, if Reform win the election, they've got to change the law in the civil service back to the old one, so they've got to do as they are told. I completely agree. Their job is to fulfil the will of the elected administration. At the moment, they're not doing that. I've even heard figures in the Labour Party complaining about the blob. It's not just the right who appear to be thwarted in office. With me in the studio, Simon Danczuk, former Labour MP, international businessman and best-selling author and a supporter of Reform UK. Down the line, journalist and communications consultant, former star of Sky News and Fleet Street legend Linda Jubilee. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning, Mark.
Really good to see you. I know there were one or two issues getting the line up, and I'm so happy that we've got you on here because we need someone of your pedigree and experience to help us with this. Simple question this morning. Can a new leader save Labour?
I'm not sure that a new leader can save Labour. I mean, at the moment, there is no leadership candidate, no clear candidate. And I think that's what the problem is, because we're talking about Keir Starmer leaving, but even inside the party, I'm told, well, I think we can all see, there's no clear path for a leadership candidate at the moment. But I don't think that's a fundamental problem. I think we've got a fundamental problem here because we are always talking in terms of left or right. And I think the public is actually ahead of us on this one. I think you get left and right people who are pro-Brexit. I think you get left and right people who want to see something done about immigration. So the old rules, the old political dynamic that existed has gone, and the new one has not yet emerged. And I think that problem, well, Reform may have emerged, actually, because we've seen colossal victory and historic victory this week, but we're still not sure exactly how that will pan out in practice. But the fact of the matter is, the old rule book, you might as well just sling it out because these are different times now. And I think it's very interesting, but it is very perilous.
What is Labour's main problem, Linda? Is it policy or personality?
No, I think the main problem is before the election, Keir Starmer had to sort of force himself into a kind of matrix that suited the corporate world, suited the city, suited the financial sector in general, because in those areas, people didn't see him as a serious candidate. So he kind of had to bend himself out of shape, but that didn't fit with what his backbench MPs thought, as we can see when it came to voting on various bits of legislation, principally the benefit situation. Now, that's a real problem when it comes to constructing a vision, because actually it makes it impossible. And if you don't have a vision, you don't have a strategy. And if you don't have a strategy, it's impossible to form a tactical game plan, which means that you are constantly doing U-turns. That's the reason for these U-turns, because there is no route to success for him. But I don't think if you transferred that to a new candidate, they would have to radically reform themselves. And I don't know that they can appeal to the soft left and some of their hardliners on the back benches.
Yes, an interesting assessment there from Linda Jubilee, Simon Danczuk. It's worth reminding ourselves that an incredible opportunity exists for someone. 3 years and a bumper majority.
Yeah, you can't believe that we've got where we are. And I was just picking up on points that Linda's made. I think we are in a period of flux. There's no doubt about that. That, you know, votes are going off here, there and everywhere. And she also made the point that Starmer has had to contort himself, you know, to try and satisfy a whole range of different groups. But he's just very bad at it. The successful politicians, whether it's Blair or Thatcher or whoever it is, are particularly good at that. But he's absolutely hopeless at it. And then the other point, which I really agree with Linda about, is the lack of vision. successful political leaders have a vision, they know where they're going, you can naturally tell where they would be on any particular policy, but that doesn't apply to Starmer. He has no vision for the country, no vision for the Labour Party, no vision for himself, I don't think.
Yes, I mean, Linda, you know, if you look at this historic opportunity, you know, former politicians would bite your hand off for a potential 3 years in office and a majority of 165 MPs.
Yeah, but he's got a majority that is broad but only an inch deep, and that is the problem, is that he cannot garner support inside his own party. Simon's exactly right here. You know, you almost want to rip up the rule book and start again, because we are in very tricky times now. Now, where Simon is correct, absolutely correct, is when you talk to a seasoned politician, the whole point about politics is that you have to weave a bit to get through a difficult scenario in order to implement the policies you've outlined, particularly in your manifesto. But it's impossible. I don't think anyone could duck and dive and weave through this situation. I don't think anyone could do it, because Keir Starmer almost set himself up to fail when we all went to the polls in the last election. Because I don't think it's possible for the Labour Party, as it stands, to contort itself to get through to the voter, because the whole voting mass has become much more complicated. We're a much more difficult country to govern. And so we see the massive result for reform this week. But don't forget, we've seen a significant success for the Green Party too. And how that will shake down in a general election is anyone's guess. I mean, there are all sorts of computations that could happen when we next go to the polls.
Well, yes. And Simon, I think Linda's so right that, yes, Labour have a majority of 165, but it's an empty majority. There's a growing sense, Simon, that this Labour Party are ungovernable.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think they're in a very poor position, and the irony is that they've got a very large majority. But as Linda says, it's very shallow support. I think the biggest problem here is that Keir Starmer just isn't good at politics, and he's come in, he's not been a member of Parliament very long. Most political leaders have been in politics for decades. He's come in and he's been over promoted in many respects. He quickly becomes leader of the Labour Party. He manages to get rid of Corbyn, and then before you know it, he becomes Prime Minister. But he has no political experience, and that's what's not served him well.
Most definitely. How do you see this panning out, Linda? Can the Prime Minister cling on, or is he on his way out?
Well, I've said on this programme before that, in my view, he can survive the short term after these disastrous results, mainly because the Labour Party itself cannot see its way through to finding a candidate who will clearly be successful. You've got West Street, he might seem like a good candidate, not universally popular in the party, on a very slim majority himself in his constituency. You've got Shabana Mahmood, a very effective woman, possibly, but unpopular in the Parliamentary Labour Party. You've got Angela Rayner, who has yet to pay her tax. And actually, from memory, if we go back to the local election results in her area, I think 16 of the 17 seats Labour lost. So she's in a weak area, a much weakened area for the Labour Party. And I think we've got Andy Burnham. Now, whatever way you slice it, he hasn't got a constituency at all at the moment, and no one is likely to fall on their sword, because there is no safe Labour seat that I can see that he could pick up on. I just want to mention one other thing, though. One of the things that's really important at the moment is social media. And we've got, as Simon talked about, a Labour Party hard to govern. I think we've got a country that's hard to govern, because we're far too used to swiping right and expecting an instant solution. Now, the problem here for any party, and that includes reform, although they are untested in many areas, but the problem is you've got a population that is unwilling to wait unwilling to wait for delayed gratification when it comes to a solution. There is no easy solution to the economic problems we now face. We do not have economic momentum. We do not have economic growth. We've got an ageing population. We've got a huge band of NEETs. We've got a huge and historically high number of people on benefits. And we've got very little in terms of tax receipts going into the exchequer. Now, that's a very big problem when it comes to funding things that we really need, like, for example, the military. So we have some profound problems to deal with at the moment. And the question is, can people bite the bullet and be prepared to make those sacrifices? Let me tell you something. It's a little story, and it might be a quick digression, but I was up in a Piper Cherokee yesterday, and I thought, and I believe, Mark, you know I'm an older woman, I thought back to the super generation, that generation of 18 or 19 or 20-year-old young men who went up to fight in the Battle of Britain. Do you think we would have won that war or the post-war challenges that we faced with anything less than a resolute and firm attitude? Because at the moment, that's what we need, and that I do not see any evidence of.
And it's interesting, isn't it, Simon? Do we risk underestimating Sir Keir Starmer, his stubbornness, his tenacity, his desire to stay in the job?
Oh, I think he has all those things, but I think his card's marked. And Catherine West coming out in the last 24 hours, this backbench Labour MP who's effectively a stalking horse against him. I disagree with Linda a little bit. I don't think he can hold on. I think with Catherine West coming out, I think as the week progresses, I think we will see West Street and one or two others come forward and challenge for the leadership. And I think it's all over for Starmer.
Well, that's interesting. And actually, if we look at the parliamentary practicalities, Simon, it's not going to be Burnham, is it?
No, I don't think it is. I mean, it's all over the Sunday papers today that he's ready to go, that he's got a seat lined up. But as Linda points out, there are no safe Labour seats left in the country after these local elections. And I don't know. I haven't heard what seat. There was talk of him taking over from Peter Dowd on Merseyside. But Peter Dowd, the Labour MP, has come out and said he's not going to shift. He's not going to give his seat up for Burnham. And who would risk it? The chance that they might get put in the House of Lords if Andy Burnham becomes Prime Minister. That would be the deal. I don't think anybody's going to risk it and give him a seat.
Simon, we loved having you in for an extra 15 minutes. So grateful for your valuable time and your input and expertise. Come back and see us soon. My thanks to Simon Danchuk, international businessman, former Labour MP and now Reform UK supporter. Delighted to say that Linda Jubilee is going to stay with me. Plus your calls. Can a new leader save the Labour Party?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast. Can a new leader save Labour? Judy has left a voice note.
Hello, it's Judy from Altos, West Yorkshire. Keir Starmer has no self-awareness, so he'll never resign. He'll be dragged kicking and screaming by his fingernails on number 10's door. If they had a new leader, it would just be more of the same. Tax and spend and closer ties with the EU. I think what will happen, Keir will do one of two things. He'll either call a general election, or he'll go scorched earth and give the backbenchers everything they want. And this country will be in such a mess. If Reform do get in, they'll struggle for years to right all the wrongs. This is a terrible government. Thank you.
Judy, thank you for that. Elaine has left a voice
Morning,
note.
Mark. Elaine here. I would have Graham Stringer running the Labour Party, the right of the party, a Brexiteer, only until Nigel gets into power, hopefully very soon, within the next year. There's nobody else like Nigel Farage for number 10. And he has a lot of great MPs. Richard Tice, he's gifted as well, very good. And yeah, I'm waiting for Nigel to win a general election soon.
Thank you, Elaine. With me down the line, former Sky News star, Fleet Street legend and communications advisor Linda Jubilee. And David in Gloucestershire has called the show as well. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Mark. How are we all?
I'm very well. What do you have to say to Linda Jubilee?
Well, I did see that Starmer's brought some new advisors in, and I understand that Harold Shipman's been brought in to run the NHS, that the Cray twins have been brought in to run security, and that Ronnie Biggs was brought in yesterday afternoon at the last minute to run the trains.
You could do a lot worse than that lineup.
I was talking about it with my wife yesterday afternoon. I said that's the only, bringing in Gordon Brown. I didn't realise Harriet Harman was there, but bringing in Gordon Brown, a man that sold our gold off at record lows, who brought the crash in of 2008, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And he's going to advise us on what?
Finance.
Finance?
Yep.
This is a man that just bankrupted the country.
You couldn't make it up.
You couldn't make it up, could you?
Well, David, I'm so glad you've raised this issue. Stay with us if you can. Linda Jubilee, your reaction to the arrival of Gordon Brown and Harriet Harman into the upper end of this government.
I've got to say, that last caller, was it Mark, was hilarious. I mean, the fact of the matter is, regardless of whether it's Gordon Brown or anyone else, you don't bring in another advisor as a form of good communications in a catastrophic situation, because part of the catastrophic situation is that Sir Keir Starmer has been badly advised. You can't keep throwing advisors under the bus and bring in a new one, because now people question his judgment. So it doesn't matter who he brings in to advise him, because it will be seen as a bad thing. Specifically, that's what I think, but in broad terms, people want to know that the captain of the ship is in fact the captain of the ship. They do not need to hear about another advisor. You do not hear Nigel Farage talking about XYZ advisor because he knows his own mind. I'm not saying I'm a Reform supporter, but he clearly knows his own mind. And because he knows his own mind, he's comfortable in his own skin. He's a very good communicator. And guess what? People get behind him.
Well, they do indeed. David, what do you think about Nigel Farage? Speaking to the Daily Express today, he's got a clear message. The best is yet to come. Can he grow his support and win the next election?
Well, I think he can, because I think this is the one thing he had to do was do well in these elections, which he did. All right, he could have done better, but he's done fantastically well. And I think, and that shows, and I think it's a lot of people, they won't vote for somebody, I'm not sure, I've had this from my wife and from my mother and a few other people, I'm not sure whether I can vote for Reform because they're an untrusted party or whatever. And I know this is going to take time to build, but it will build. I mean, we didn't get an election here down here in the Forest of Dean, so we weren't able to, but I did vote for him in the last election. But, I mean, what Linda was saying about all these advisors is these spags, and I do get annoyed, and I'm going to just say it a minute. You bring, on talk at the moment, you've got a lot of ex-Conservative spags, and they're all sitting there going, well, we said this and we said that. Well, you didn't obviously say it at the time.
I know.
And I do worry that, it is spags that are half the problem. I mean, who are they, advising? Advising on what exactly? You know, a lot of them have come straight out of university. If you're going to spag, if I wanted advice on a builder, I want a builder that's done the job for 30 years. If I wanted advice on agriculture, I'd want a farmer that's been and done it, not some bloke that's been to uni or local person that's been there for 5 minutes, been to university. Oh, I've read a book about it. Oh, well, that's all right then. I think this is half the problem.
I agree, and these people have definitely infected the Labour Party as well. The spads, as you say, the party workers, the apparatchiks, the folk who have climbed the greasy pole. David, brilliant call, and thank you for making Linda chuckle. Linda, what do you make of what David had to say?
Yeah, he's absolutely right. And I think that people have got to knuckle down now, several people, key people, and understand what being a leader is all about and really concentrate on that. Because, we've got too much cut and paste slogans, too many cut and paste slogans, too much marketing speak, too much word salad. I mean, I was actually on the Conservatives candidates list for 5 years, and actually I had a great time. I was, helped out with various campaigns. I learnt a lot from going door to door, knocking on doors. I tell you, one thing I was told was my big mistake. I tried too hard to answer questions. I was told that by two leading members of the Conservative Party on the terrace at the House of Commons. That's what they told me. I should try much harder just to talk without saying anything. And I think we have got beyond the point where that is now acceptable to the general public, because their biggest complaint is when an MP starts talking, they outline the problem. Now, we know what the problems are. We're expecting some solutions. Our responsibility, what we have to do, is we have to grin and bear the considerable amount of effort it is going to take to solve the problems in this country. Now, apart from, as I mentioned earlier in your programme, apart from the success of Nigel Farage and the reform, that's a historic success, you can't underestimate what the Greens achieved. And you have to look at that quite carefully because of the demographic behind them. There's lots of talk about how they appeal to ethnic minorities, but they do appeal to Gen Z. And the reason they appeal to Gen Z is because for many, many years, Gen Z has seen the housing market disintegrate in front of their eyes. They are loaded up with student debt that they can't pay, and they are very, very despondent about the old order. And that's why the old order is crumbling and the new order is coming in.
Jack, a quick word from you with the clock against us. Good morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
How you doing? You okay?
Very well. What do you make of all of this? Do you think that a new leader could save Labour?
No chance. No chance. The problem Labour's got is it finished its fight 20, 30 years ago. And all these perceived notions of breaking down barriers and, standing up for the working class, they're gone. They don't exist anymore. So they're trying to find new purity fights to show that they're so righteous and morally superior than the rest of us. The reality of it is they won those battles years ago. So by trying to find new battles, they don't actually look out for the working class. Those people in this society, you get them and go to work.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, isn't it, Linda?
Very clever observation, that. And that kind of knits back to what I was saying about there's no longer any left wing or right wing. Times change, and the public is changing all the time now. So in many respects, the public is ahead of the game. Politicians are trying to force things around to try and meet whatever their latest focus group tells them, whatever their latest market research might tell them. And at the end of the day, I think each party, and Reform is partly doing this now, has to rethink the whole political horizon and work out exactly what is it would work for the public. Then you have to build a vision, build a strategy, and inform the public of how to turn that strategy into answers to their problems. I mean, that requires the heavy lifting on two sides, both politicians and the voter.
And of course, Jack, a replacement to Starmer would have to be more left-wing. That's the only way they'll get elected.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that probably isn't going to be great for the country at this moment in time, is it?
No, exactly. The problem is that there's a schism within the left too. You might have this massive majority, but like Linda said, it's on a very thin majority. And also, he's got his own backbenchers that are radically more left than he is,
Yeah.
which is ultimately it's led him down a situation where the majority isn't actually a majority. He's got no mandate. He has to appeal to his backbenchers who want radical left socialism, whilst he's trying to maintain some sort of central Blairite socialism, where he's pro-business. The two don't marry up. So they're either tacked to the left, in which case you're going to have even worse socialism, where businesses are hammered and more people decide to leave, or he tries to hold the ground in the centre of the left, but nobody trusts him. He's unpatriotic. Him and his mate, Professor Sands and Lord Hermer and Shiner and the other human rights lawyers in the bubble in North London are going to continue to make decisions that are based on globalist agendas, based on international orders and Quango courts abroad. This is not going to fly with anyone with any amount of grey matter inside their head. So this guy is he's not the right guy. I do worry that ultimately, if there is a change in leadership, you either end up with more radical left or someone who's just as bad as Starmer in terms of lying to the public. What's needed is a general election. It's the only chance of sorting this country out.
Jack, what a brilliant call. Please call me again soon and have an excellent Sunday. What chance, Linda, of a general election in the next 12 to 18 months?
Well, you never say never in politics, and I agree with a lot of what Jack has just said. That was a very insightful call. But he's absolutely right that Keir Starmer cannot lead the party. I agree. But can the party be relevant to this country? I don't know that it can, because as Jack was clearly saying, in his opinion, and it's backed up by a lot of anecdotal research on my part, you've got a whole bunch of ideologues who want the party to run a certain way. But why do they want it run a certain way? Because that's not to do with solving their cost of living crisis. It's not to do with the cost of groceries in their basket or the cost of filling up the car or the cost of dealing and raising a family. They're not thinking about practical solutions for people. They are thinking about their own ideological position. The point he made about Lord Hermer et al. Is absolutely right on. The thing is, Nigel Farage is successful because he approaches those problems on that level. He connects with people on that level. Now, I am not saying that he knows all of the answers, but I am saying he's gathering a new tribe, if you like, of both left and right, if you want to characterise that way, which I think we've got to stop doing at some point, because he's got everyone who can vote for him singing on the same hymn sheet, which is something the other parties have failed to do, except for Zach Polanski. Whatever you make of him, and I mean, I know we all think he's a little bit flaky, but he did get 300, I think it was 300 odd seats, council seats in this election, and control of 2 mayoral seats in London. Now, you have to pay attention to that because he has enormous traction with Gen Z who, reform voters don't see any action from the established parties. Young kids, and I've got 3 very bright, young, determined children. I'm not saying how they'd vote, but I listen to them and their friends. The old system doesn't work for them. End of.
Too right. Linda, what a thrill to have you on the show. Always a deep privilege. My thanks to former Sky News star, journalist, Fleet Street legend, and of course, communications consultant, Linda Jubilee. So much more to come. Is the best yet to come for Nigel Farage? That's next.
crown is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You are listening to Talk Breakfast, Dolan's Dispatch, coming at 9 a.m. My appraisal of the hot mess that is this government. Starmer, should he stay, should he go? I'll be giving my verdict at 9 o'clock. Front page of the Daily Express. The best is yet to come. Victorious Nigel Farage says Reform are now the true party of the working people. Farage also warns Starmer against forging disastrous closer ties with Europe. For reaction, live in the studio, broadcaster and BBC radio legend Alex Dyke. Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, Mark.
Very good to see you. What about Farage? Can he win the next election?
Well, I think he can. I was sure he could last year. Then I thought earlier this year, and particularly before the local elections, I thought maybe his star is fading a little, and it's still quite a long race. But now I just think he can do it. I think he can do it. I think Labour are in such a state. Who goes next for Labour, if anyone does? It's such a case of best of a, you can't even have best of a bad bunch because the bunch are so bad. So I don't think the Conservatives are going to be able to win back the affections of the voting public. I think Farage is going to do it.
And you know about communication as a broadcasting legend, and that is something, a gift that Nigel Farage has in spades.
Yes, but I did think that Kemi was very good on the streets last week, particularly dealing with that heckler. But Farage he's just a born broadcaster. He's a born communicator. He's a guy who could probably go into a room, not know a lot about a subject, but impress you with the knowledge you think he has. He makes you feel, if you get Nigel Farage, he makes you feel comfortable. He makes you feel he's in control. Bearing in mind, it's a lot easier to be in opposition than it is to be in power.
Well, I was watching one of those rolling news channels yesterday, and they asked some construction workers why they'd supported Reform in the local elections. And one of the lads said, well, Nigel Farage is true. He just says the truth. And I think that is a big part of his brand, is authenticity. People feel like he's saying it like it is.
There are only a handful of people in Britain who feel, and I'm looking at one of them now, who feel confident to say it like it is. Piers Morgan is another shining example. And then you've got Farage. But there aren't many politicians who will say it like it is because they're so worried about getting negative press. When you actually have confidence, like Trump, or maybe Trump's got too much confidence, you become kind of bulletproof. And that's what the left don't understand. Once you break through and people know you're honest and they know you're fearless, and that's a good word, I think, for Nigel Farage. He's fearless.
Now, you're sitting on some other massive stories. What have you got for us today?
Right, I've got two that I wanted to share with you in this segment of the programme. This one is in the Mail on Sunday. It's page 18. I'm going to read some of this out for you because I don't want to misquote. I thought this was really, really interesting. Earl Spencer is in a plea to the new BBC boss over the Diana Bashir scandal. So Princess Diana's brother yesterday urged incoming BBC boss Matt Britton to lance the boil and shatter the conspiracy of silence over the Martin Bashir scandal. Now, we all remember this TV. Those of us who are old enough will remember that TV interview. This is the one where Diana says, there were 3 of us in the marriage. But of course, Martin Bashir, what we didn't know at the time, had showed Earl Spencer forged bank statements to gain access to Diana, which is absolutely wicked, and then tricked her by peddling a string of lies, including that young Prince William's watch had been bugged to record her conversations. I mean, this is pretty evil. And I remember having dinner with... the spoon bender, Uri Geller. I forgot his name for a second. Uri Geller. I remember having a dinner with him.
He's one of my favourite benders, I've got to say.
He absolutely is. And he told me that it was him who got Michael Jackson the interview with Bashir. So Uri had seen this interview. Michael was looking for someone to do an interview. And apparently after that, Michael Jackson and Uri Geller never spoke again because Michael Jackson was also absolutely heartbroken with the way the interview came out. And the interesting thing is that Michael Jackson's people recorded the same interviews, and there was a different edit that went out from the BBC one a few nights later on Sky. And when you watch the two back to back, you could see all of the damage really was done not only in the lies but in the edit.
Yeah, so this is a really, really corrupt example of BBC journalism, isn't it? And Bashir, an absolute sort of pivotal figure within the corporation at the time, admired, very powerful, and in fact he stayed in post at the BBC for years.
Yes,
I think over a decade as their religious correspondent or something.
Yes, and I was at the BBC in London and I went to the washroom and he was coming out of the washroom and I was so close to
Did he wash his hands?
Well, I don't know. Where he was coming out as I was going in, so I didn't see that, but I was so close saying to him, because there are a lot of people think that that was the beginning of the end for Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
That interview just absolutely finished him.
And it was terrible for Diana because at that point it ruptured her relationship with the royal family. At that point she lost HRH and it was the beginning of the end. You know, do the BBC have blood on their hands? Because what happened with that Bashir interview for Diana is it set in train a series of events which in the end led to her passing.
Yes, so we lost Diana in August 97, so I'm guessing this interview, I can't remember, would have been... Was it 95, 96?
Yeah.
Something like that. So just think of what we thought of the BBC.
Things went
then.
downhill for Diana after that Panorama interview.
Yeah. And for the BBC. So Earl Spencer has described Martin Bashir as a compulsive liar, adding, I wouldn't really want to give him the time of day, is the honest truth. He branded the interview the worst piece of journalism he'd ever seen, and he wants the BBC to look into it. But we don't want the BBC marking their own homework.
No, you can't. They're proven to be very bad at that. Right, where should we go next?
Right, I've got one other story for you in this segment, Mark, and this is in The Sun today. I thought this was interesting. We've heard a lot about Jeffrey Epstein, but we haven't heard that much about the circumstances in which he died. There are some people saying he committed suicide. There are others saying he didn't. I was expecting some huge Netflix documentary on this, or maybe a movie. Maybe it's too soon. I don't know. Maybe there has been one and I've missed it. But notes discovered after Epstein's failed and successful suicide bid, say The Sun here, almost certainly had the same author, experts believe. Both notes were in pen. They had the same spacing around the letters and letter shapes, using capitals and unique punctuation, so using capitals where maybe you wouldn't use them. The problem is, so this is an expert, Grace Warbler, who's looked at these documents, and she said the problem is, though, there's so little handwriting by Epstein, they've not got hardly anything to compare it to. And that got me thinking, that isn't only just interesting for this case, But what are we going to do, these handwriting analysts, in the future, where we are writing less and less?
Well, that's exactly right. The whole thing stinks, doesn't it? It's pretty wild. Our big question today, Alex Dyke, can a new leader save Labour? What say you?
No, I know. I think they are so, you know, it only takes one bad apple to ruin the barrel, and I think that's what we've seen with Keir Starmer.
Well, that's interesting you say that. That's got echoes of Simon Danchuk, ex-Labour MP, live in the studio this morning, who said Keir Starmer has killed the Labour Party.
Well, I wouldn't have gone that far, but he knows a lot more about politics than I do. I think the best situation for Labour would be West Streeting, because I know he has connections to Peter Mandelson, but there are a lot of good people out there that have in the past had connections.
Half the party have got connections to Mandelson.
Exactly. So I think, and he has seemed to have moved forward within the NHS and cleaned some stuff up there. He's young, and you know, I think he would be the best.
Yes, or perhaps you might say the least bad option. Yes. Alex, I'm delighted to say you're coming back after 9, which I'm really looking forward to, responding to Dolan's dispatch, in which I'll be dealing with the Prime Minister in no uncertain terms. But folks, what do you think about this? Will a new leader save Labour? This is Talk Breakfast.
At 11:16 this morning, 2 men, aged 76 and 34, were attacked on Highfield Avenue in Barnet. They suffered stab wounds in the attack and are now being looked after in hospital.
We need to make sure that when people carry out these activities, they feel the full force of the law. People think they can get away with this. The person who firebombed a few weeks ago is out on bail. That's not full force of the law.
This crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It's not enough to simply say we stand with Jewish communities. Of course we do, but we must show it and act it. And the responsibility lies with each and every one of us, because it is our fight too.
Let's stop importing people from countries where anti-Semitism is the norm. And if our London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, in his infinite wisdom and belief in diversity, thinks that's the sort of diverse view that it's okay to have on the streets of London and the police don't get involved, don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
You keep getting proven right every single time. Jews are not safe in this country.
Well, absolutely. No one can be surprised or feeling shocked that this happened. No Jew certainly is. I mean, we had Zach Polanski last week saying this was just a perceived threat. Well, we can see this isn't any perception. This is real. This is happening on the streets. This isn't just an anti-Semitic terror attack. This is an attack on Britain, on the Western liberal democracy and values.
The first politician that uses the word shocking, I might just go and throttle him, because this is anything but shocking. It's the most expected thing is almost overdue, if you ask me, because, I mean, I just left Israel last week. I thought it would be the last time we were woken up by explosions, but clearly not.
The Jewish community is our community, and their safety is our safety. And we have to make it absolutely clear, robust, strong leadership, and this has to stop, because otherwise it's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Our plan is a complete step change in how we protect communities, moving beyond piecemeal responses to a sustained nationwide effort, one that ensures that people across the United Kingdom can live freely and without fear.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
How do you solve a problem like Keir Starmer? Don't worry, I won't sing. Julie Andrews, I ain't. 3 minutes past 8, top of the morning. Happy Sunday, one and all. It's Mark Dolan. It is Talk Breakfast. And breaking this morning, Starmer in meltdown, disarray in number 10 as the Prime Minister fights for his political life. Is it now end of days for the most unpopular Prime Minister in the history of modern polling? And does the governing party descend into a bloody civil war, with the first Labour MP throwing her hat into the leadership ring? What next for the governing party of this country? Turns out we've still got lots of problems. Rising inflation, rising unemployment, non-existent growth, spiralling debt. The government are taking chunks out of each other and preparing for a political beauty contest whilst Rome burns. So what next for the country and for the party? My question to you this morning is a simple one. Can a new leader save the Labour Party? And front page of the Sunday Express, the best is yet to come. Victorious Nigel Farage says Reform are now the true party of the working people. Can Reform win the next election? Is Farage the answer? My phone number is 0344 499 1000. What do you think? Will a new leader save Labour? Does that help? Is that an improvement on what we've got? And what about Farage? Is the best yet to come? 0344 499 1000. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note, and as the saying goes, let's talk. Well, yesterday, over 40,000 people watched the show live on YouTube. So this is a radio show. It's a TV show as well. If you want to see my amazing guests, if you want to watch Dolan's Dispatch and participate in this mega show, then head over to YouTube, search Talk, and up we pop. So much to get through. Will a new leader save Labour? As the saying goes, let's talk. We'll start with the front pages, and we have the Sunday Telegraph. Stalking horse plot to oust Starmer. Former minister gives ultimatum to the cabinet. Challenge the Prime Minister's leadership or I will stand myself. That is Catherine West, who is a North London Labour MP. Is there any other kind? Sun on Sunday. Arsenal ace shock Gunner in marriage crisis. Well, let's hope that means that they won't win the league. That's my hope anyway. Sunday Express. The best is yet to come. Victorious Farage says Reform are now the true party of the working people. Sunday Times. Starmer brings in Brown, but backbench rebellion is growing. Sunday Mirror. After election wipeout, the Prime Minister says we will help cut your bills. PM to blitz cost of living as MP threatens to trigger leadership contest. Mail on Sunday. Labour's meltdown. If Starmer had a plot, he's now losing it. And the Daily Star Sunday. Hated PM recruits hated former PM to save his jobs. God help us all. They're reflecting on the news that Gordon Brown is coming into the UK as some kind of financial guru. This is a guy that sold our gold reserves at the bottom of the market value, which has cost us in the region of, wait for it, £40 billion. And he's going to be advising the Prime Minister on global finance. Make it make sense. Well, the man who can make it make sense is one of my favourite broadcasters, commentator and Talk legend Peter Barnes. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Mark.
So good to see you. I will say that that's a headline that caught my eye in the Express. Nigel Farage says that Reform are now the true party of the working people. And it does seem that working class voters on Thursday abandoned Labour and turned turquoise.
Yes, they did, in a very, very big way. However, this is the big problem that Reform now have. And I'm going to be the very bad... You had your day for 1,400 seats. Congratulations. It's now time to look at the next numbers down. And that is not good reading because their vote share went down despite spending nearly 7 million quid on the elections. So, yes, they've got the working class vote. They have taken the red wall. But that is the ceiling. That's what it seems to be.
Local elections are a notoriously weak portent of future general election outcomes, though, aren't they?
Usually.
They're the worst ever opinion polls.
Now, normally I would agree with you. However, what we saw the other day was literally the collapse of the duopoly, so the end of the two parties to a degree. But we also saw the fact that the fragmentation does not work in Reform's favour because very few people who are on the kind of the left or the progressive side, I know we don't like that word, but are showing that they are willing to tactically vote. 1/3 of Labour voters said they would vote for the Conservatives to keep out reform, and that did happen. And yeah, we're starting to see that Nigel Farage is going to have to work 22 times harder to actually secure a majority of one. If these polls extrapolate out.
It's very interesting. The political tide is turning. Peter Barnes is with me in the studio. Delighted to welcome a brand new voice on the show. Curtis Daly is from Turn Left Media. Good morning, Curtis.
Good morning. A real pleasure to be here. How are you, Mark?
I'm really well. Fantastic to have you on the show. Why do you think more working class people are backing reform and leaving Labour?
Well, because, and obviously, look, you know I'm on the left, I don't support reform, but the Labour Party have abandoned the working class. What I find really interesting is many Labour figures seem to think that this is an anti-Starmer vote. That's not true. I mean, bear in mind, Keir Starmer is extremely unpopular, but I think it's an anti-Labour vote. The existential crisis of the Labour Party has happened for decades, not just since Keir Starmer. I mean, if you look at the numbers of the 2024 general election, people didn't vote for Keir Starmer or the Labour Party in confidence. The only reason why they won was because the Conservatives lost so badly. So in the 2017 general election, Labour got 40% of the vote. In 2019, they got 32% of the vote. In 2024, Keir Starmer got less votes than Labour did under Jeremy Corbyn both elections. But because the Conservatives collapsed, that's how they got a high majority. So I think the question now becomes, maybe we should look at a better voting system, because in 2017 and 2019, you had a strong Conservative Party, whereas you didn't this time. So I honestly think the Labour MPs and Labour supporters are a little bit delusional when they think, look, we'll just get rid of Keir Starmer and everything will be fine. The rot in the Labour Party is existential. The internal machinations of the Labour Party is existential. I mean, they wouldn't even allow Andy Burnham, who's not even that left-wing, but he's quite popular, and they wouldn't even allow him to be an MP. So I think the election result shows that the Labour Party are pretty much dead. And voters are either going to the right or to the left. They're going to reform in many areas. We saw a green surge too. Your commentator before made a really good point actually about fragmentation of votes. A good example is Manchester. Manchester traditionally quite a stronghold for the Labour Party, and you saw sweeping Green Party gains, but you also saw seats go to Reform.
Well, most definitely. And it's interesting there, Peter Barnes, what Curtis has had to say. And I tend to agree with him that actually the problem isn't Starmer. The problem is Labour, a party of metropolitan progressives.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. I completely agree with Curtis and yourself. This is an existential crisis in the same way that the Conservatives had under Boris Johnson. It is they lost their centre ground, their North Star. They lost their kind of guiding principle. And for the Labour Party, that was always the working class. It always has been. To lose Wales in that dramatic a fashion, because the Wales and the Labour Party are basically the same thing, in my opinion. You know, they've been in power for so long. To not just lose it to obviously the nationalist side, but then to have Reform swoop in and capitalise on the kind of the gap of an opposition is just astounding to me. I mean, I watched the results come in and I was like, well, I knew they'd do very well, but to see that level of anger come from voters was very, very telling. But Scotland as well, you know, Anna Sarwar, I actually feel very sorry for in a way, because they have been punished because of the national government. Starmer has a lot of responsibility to take, but it is the Labour Party's entire ethos and how they have gone about government is entirely wrong, because they never understood, as Curtis is right to say, they didn't win the general election. The Conservatives lost the general election, and Starmer keeps believing he's got this moral crusade that the government, that the people are behind him. He won because he didn't wear a blue rosette.
A new Prime Minister, Curtis, would inherit a majority of 165 MPs and 3 years of office. Why are you so sure that a new leader couldn't transform their fortunes?
I mean, I think a new leader could give them a small bump for sure. And again, if we were to speak about Andy Burnham, he's relatively light. He's probably the only sort of person who could maybe steady the ship. But again, the Labour Party is facing an existential crisis because, look, when I speak to voters, whether they go to the left or to the right, people are sick and tired of the two-party system. I think people showed that with the Conservatives when they basically got wiped out in 2024. And it's now showing for the Labour Party because the political establishment, now again, I know you might agree, I think Reform are the political establishment, but I digress. The two-party system, people feel like it's not working for them. There's not enough meaningful change. So I don't see how just swapping prime ministers means people are going to come back to them. We had 14 years of Conservative rule, and people thought they voted Labour for change. So why would a change in prime minister make people think, do you know what, now there's going to be change? It really isn't. Again, I cannot stress this enough. The local election results was a disaster. I'm seeing some Labour figures say, well, losing 1,500 seats, it's not great, it's not ideal, but it's not the worst. I'm thinking, when has this ever happened? Again, in 2018, I believe, I could be wrong here, but I believe in 2018, the Labour Party lost just a couple of hundred seats. And a lot of the political establishment said, oh my God, this is existential crisis of Jeremy Corbyn. He needs to resign, which I thought was ridiculous. But losing 1,500 seats, I mean, Keir Starmer does have to go, but I can't see them commanding the confidence of the people. I don't know if Reform are going to win a majority next time round. I think polling and results indicate that they're most likely to win the next election. But I cannot see that Labour are going to turn the ship, especially that so many people are abandoning Labour to the Green Party. I mean, Labour used to be, again, for the working class, but they used to be a social democratic party. They used to believe in public ownership of utilities. They used to believe in unions. They used to believe in higher taxes on the wealthy. And that is now being commanded by the Greens with the wealth tax, with nationalising energy and other public services. So you've got the left-wing economic programme that is left and they're going to the Greens. And even though, as much as I really despise Labour, they have reduced immigration, I think people are still angry about that in some areas and they're gravitating towards reform. So there's a real splinter here and I don't see how Labour can bring that back.
Working class people, though, Curtis, are right to back reform, aren't they? Because what they would have in a leader like Nigel Farage is a feeling of being heard. He would tackle illegal immigration, which is bad news for working class people because it's often poorer areas where these people are accommodated. Also, illegal immigration creates further competition for limited state resources. He's going to scrap net zero. Net zero, a horrible policy for industrial communities and bad news for anyone that's poor because of rising energy costs. Two big tentpole issues there, immigration and net zero, that are a big plus for the working class.
Obviously, that's where I disagree. I think the policies from the Greens, again, I appreciate that talkTV probably doesn't support the Greens. I think there's a difference between Reform getting working class voters and their policies helping the working class. I don't believe they will. I mean, their economic agenda seems quite similar to just what Margaret Thatcher offered.
Let's stay on immigration, though. Illegal immigration is really bad.
To talk about immigration, the conversation has gone from let's tackle illegal immigration to legal immigration now. I think that is concerning people. I mean, Reform has spoken about indefinite leave to remain. The average person would say to you, look, I'm not, I have a concern with illegal immigration, but as long as people come here, work hard, pay taxes, I'm fine with that. The problem we have, though, is when it comes to asylum seekers and refugees, they're not allowed to work. So if they're just going to be staying in a hotel and getting very small state subsidies, that doesn't seem to work. So I think a policy that people would appreciate is making these people work. And again, the Greens are the only ones.
You can't let the asylum seekers and the refugees work because that takes jobs away from the people that live in this country who are already struggling to find work.
Well, I would say, I mean, if you look at many job adverts, right, there's so many precarious work out there. I think it's probably a bit of a distraction just to think that the lack of jobs are happening because of immigration, whereas in reality, the rise of AI, for example.
If asylum seekers work, there are going to be fewer jobs.
Let me just talk about AI quickly.
It's creating competition for jobs.
Well, there's also the things when it comes to immigration, you've got the supply and demand side. Immigration also causes the demand side as well, because they'll spend money and that creates jobs and it creates a multiplier effect. The problem we're having, though, is there's no decent quality jobs out there, regardless of immigration levels. And that's something we need to talk about. Again, the rise of AI, the amount of job applications from firms that aren't real job applications. They're just, I mean, a good example of this is when you have a company that wants to hire people Often they want to hire internally, but they have to put out a job advert. Now, that particular job advert would never go to an external person. It's because they have to. There's a lot of jobs online which aren't real, for example. So I think we need to have a fundamental conversation about our economy. Immigration can come into it, but we cannot ignore things like automation, AI, and the fact that there's a lot of low-paid, precarious work out there. And that is why, like it or not, yes, people are feeling drawn towards reform, but that's why people are being drawn towards the Green Party too.
But Curtis, I hear you that you care about those at the bottom end of the economic ladder. I suspect that's why you're in politics. It's why you're part of Turn Left Media. And I share your concerns about our unequal society and about people that are struggling, people dependent on food banks, etc. I totally hear you. But I think there's a left-wing argument to say that high immigration, both legal and illegal, is really bad news for poor people in this country. That's my contention. My proof of that is 70,000 people have entered the country illegally since Labour won the election. That's billions to accommodate these folk, many of whom, perhaps half, will stay for the rest of their lives and statistically will be a net dependent on the taxpayer. So that's bad news for working class people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we both share the view that we need to radically change society, and especially help those in the bottom. We obviously have disagreements.
So we don't want to bring more people in to add to the bottom?
I don't know. I mean, the left-wing argument isn't about bringing more people in. It's more about saying... because my
it is if you don't stop the boats.
I mean, boats and immigration are two different things. I mean, you're not bringing 70,000 people on a boat at one time. But of course, when it comes to immigration, they're two different things. Now, for me... they're
both bad for working class people, is my point.
The immigration topic, I think, should serve the economy. So it's not an ideological thing. It's not like we need to get to this number in terms of an ideological view. It should be, look, we have gaps in social care, for example. Now, the long-term strategy should be having British people fill those roles, but that is going to be decades long of investment, and that's one thing which I don't think Reform are looking at, is spending more money on our NHS to invest a new era of workers. At the moment, we do have to fill those gaps with immigration, but over a long period of time, with more tax and spend policies, you don't have to rely on immigration to do that. And that's, I think, a big gap between Reform. They have the rhetoric on immigration, but they don't have the economic policies to say, we're going to spend so much more. Yes, we're going to raise tax on the rich. That means we can spend on our NHS, create jobs for those in this country, and we don't need to rely on immigration. So there's a big gap there. I would like to see that from Reform. I don't expect we will.
Curtis, briefly, I think you've talked a lot of sense, and I'm very grateful that you've joined us on the show. First of many appearances, I hope. Just a quick thought, and I totally agree with you. It's a dysfunctional economy that relies on cheap imported labour, which, by the way, is not great news for the donor country that these folk are leaving. You've got countries, like Somalia, that don't want to be losing nurses and all the rest of it. Yeah. Just briefly, what about the cost to the country of legal immigration? The idea that if you bring in low-skilled workers such as the Boris wave, that yes, these folk will come in, they will work, they will pay taxes, but they will also, because they're low-skilled and low-paid, be reliant on in-work benefits, subsidised housing and much besides, which is ultimately a net cost to the taxpayer in their lifetime.
Well, the question there is, why would they be reliant on benefits and housing? And you get to the
because
heart
that's what happens when you're a low-skilled worker.
Well, no, I was just going to say, you've almost nailed it. I mean, I have a slightly different view, but you've almost nailed it. Because there are British people in this country who are also on universal credit because pay is so low. So to me, I'm like, we need a high-paid Britain. So we need to look at raising wages of people, and you can only do that, and again, I appreciate you might not agree, by stronger unions. So if you're saying, well, low skill and low pay means you're on benefits, yes, that means pay should be higher because work should be paying for your life. I mean, a full-time job, I mean, this shouldn't be radical, but a full-time job should mean you can get on in life.
Well, no, I agree with you. I mean, I can't believe it. I keep agreeing with you.
For a lot of people, that's not happening.
Well, I keep agreeing with you. Well, because my fix for social care would be if it paid £20 an hour to work in social care, then there are plenty of people who would jump at the chance, as you say, because it's very, very low wages. We have to get people from overseas. In the end, though, briefly, Curtis, that's just dysfunctional, and it's going to end in financial ruin and societal collapse.
There are many crises we are facing. again, I tend to not think that immigration is the number one cause of that. For me, it's again the amount of precarious work out there, but also the cost of living and the cost of housing. I mean, the housing crisis is astronomical, and in 2019, we had a record number of houses being built, but we didn't have. We still had a housing crisis. So those are the key things. I think it's bills, I think it's your rent, I think it's your mortgage and housing. And again, like it or not, the Green Party are the ones talking about those core economic issues, whereas it feels like the Reform Party are hyper-focusing on immigration, but haven't spoken about these core economic ideas. And I think what we're seeing, though, maybe people see it as exciting, but two fundamental different views of society going forward. The Labour Party and the Conservative Party all try to occupy the same grounds, right? And they basically said the same thing. We're in a new era of politics where Reform have one vision for the country and the Greens have a radically different vision for the country. But it feels like that at least we kind of have a choice. At least some people can say, look, I'm going to go with Reform because I believe in these things, but I'm going to go with the Green Party because they believe in these things. And maybe you could say that's more of a healthier democratic society rather than two political parties just aping each other and sounding the same.
Curtis, a delight to have you on the show. Thank you for making time for us on a Sunday morning. We'll speak again in the near future. Curtis Daly, Turn Left Media. Full reaction from Peter Barnes, who, let me tell you, the blood is boiling. This is Talk Breakfast.
Is facing its gravest test in decades, and the royalty from Talk is your front row seat. With royal reputations under pressure and probing questions about public trust, we unpack every twist and revelation with the biggest names in the business. From the throne room at Buckingham Palace to a mansion in Montecito, we follow every royal ripple. Never miss a moment of The Crown in crisis. Subscribe to the royalty from Talk on the app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
8:27, my previous guest has not fully accepted that high levels of immigration are really bad for the working class of this country, and that's why they're backing Farage and Reform. What say you, Peter Barnes?
I've heard some nonsense in my time, but that one takes the biscuit, I have to admit, because if you think that, flooding the market with cheap, unskilled labour is somehow good for the working class, I do not understand. And then you think that somehow it is the trade unions that will increase wages. They have been demanding more money, which means we've had to print more money, and therefore inflation has gone up. The trade unions has cost this country money, and they have cost working class people even more. It is astronomical, the economic illiteracy of the left, and it is why they should never be allowed within 10 metres of the building, let alone be allowed to run the economy. It is just incredible to me that we are still having to explain basic A-level economics to people.
Well, if you artificially push wages up, that creates inflation.
Yes.
So then you have an arms race between wages and prices.
Yes, it's why most people should have been against the increasing of the introduction of the national minimum wage. You set the marker. That's what you did. And this is the point. All you do is you keep putting it up, putting it up. You think you're giving people more money. You're not. What you're doing is you're increasing inflation. You then also look at the fact that we don't have a skilled labour force. We have actually failed working class communities by telling everybody you can do interpretive dance at university and you're going to get a job. That was just dishonest what the new Labour government did to the working class. It is actually, I think it should be a crime, to be honest.
Well, that's why I think that Nigel Farage and Reform are resonating with working people and with working class voters, is because he's identified the policies which are hurting that group.
Yes.
And that would include net zero, which is causing misery. It's impacting jobs in industrial areas, but also it's just the misery of energy prices,
yes,
which most affects the poorest, because they have to still heat their homes and not freeze to death.
Exactly.
And they've got to put petrol in their cars. So net zero, high immigration, all of these metropolitan, fashionable, liberal ideas are really bad for working class people. Nigel Farage has called it out and they've flocked to him as a result.
Yeah, without a doubt. The red wall literally went blue, and now it's got like a teal colour, I suppose. But it's fascinating that the same arguments that Boris made, Nigel is making, and the people are still going with it. It shows that they want those policies.
I wonder whether Nigel is making them more authentically than Boris was.
Well, we're going to have with that one. We'll wait and see, because if now they're in power, you know, in these councils such as Newcastle-under-Lyme, they've got to deliver. That's the challenge now for Reform. They've made the promises. Deliver them. They deliver them. Nigel will walk into number 10. In fact, he'll foxtrot down the road into number 10 if he delivers just half of what he's promised. Because the red wall has shown it is actually voting out of anger, because people have let them down. They've been lied to. They see their communities falling apart. They see the death of the high street. They see rapid immigration out of control. They see all these things. And yet again, people like Keir Starmer and all the lefties all walk about saying, oh no, we all have to open our arms and refugees welcome and all this kind of claptrap. It is killing these communities, and they have... And this is why they are using their ballot paper and they are punishing the Labour Party. That's what they do. I've called this the punishment local elections.
Wow.
Because if you're you were an incumbent, the voter, no matter whether you came from the left or the right, you were getting it from them. Because they are the people of this country, all across all the spectrum, are infuriated with the political establishment that does not listen to them.
Most definitely. Well, let's take some voice notes if we can. And Dave, do you mind giving me the fader, because we may need to abbreviate one or two of them because there are so many. Are they on Burley? Lovely, happy days. Here's a voice note from Adrian.
Morning, Mark. It's Adrian from East Sussex. Can a change of Labour leader help? No, I don't think so. Labour is a dead duck. Probably the same for the Conservatives. The reality is that the whole of Europe, and certainly the UK, following this nonsense of net zero, means that all the manufacturing industries, or a vast amount of them, have gone. A lot of the utility has gone. So there's no jobs. So if you have a population which you've then augmented with loads of other people you brought in, you've got to find some way of keeping them alive. So you then have to pay benefits out. So whatever government comes in to replace Labour is going to be between a rock and a hard place for a while.
I totally agree. What a brilliant voice note. How about this from Phil?
Morning, Mark. Phil from Durban in South Africa again. What a shambles, Mark. I sit here this beautiful morning in Durban watching the sea and think, what a shambolic situation the UK has got itself into. But there is some bright news, Mark. There is. I was rummaging around yesterday and I found 4 rolls of Gordon Brown joke toilet paper. So I'm putting that all around my house now, and that should be a good laughing.
That will do it. That will do the job. And last but not least for now, here's Mark.
Morning, Mark. Well, you may as well bring in Mark Drakeford. He finished off Welsh Labour, so you may as well finish off the main Labour as well. I reckon after all this, I think Labour will probably lose all its funding. I'll become nothing, just a party in the past. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Brilliant voice notes. Peter, last word to you.
That is an incredibly important point, is you look what Sharon Graham is doing from Unite. She's already come out and said that if the Labour Party does not change direction, it will not exist. That's the words, and that's Labour's biggest funding machine. That all it takes is one trade union to walk out the door, back Zach Polanski, and we have a real game on our hands. This is a big moment for the Labour Party. This is why they've had to bring back the likes of Harriet Harman, the lady in the pink van, useless. Gordon Brown sold out the economy, though people say he did save the world once, which is rather hilarious. So he's useless. They brought back all these old figures in the same way that the Conservatives brought back David Cameron. It is propping up the roof, waiting for the rest of the collapse. And it is going to be entertaining to watch. However, it's not going to be fun for the bank balance.
Peter Barnes, you are the Don. Always a thrill to have you on the show. Presenter at Talk and, of course, regular commentator and political strategist Peter Barnes. Will a new leader, let me put my teeth back in, will a new leader save Labour? It is 8:33, Talk Breakfast, more to come.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Following Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's near miss with a balaclava-wearing hoodlum, does that strengthen the case for Prince Harry's request for royal armed protection in the UK? Who better to ask than a man that knows Harry, the King and William intimately well, the former royal butler, Grant Harold. Good morning, Grant.
Good morning, Mark.
Really good to see you. What did you make of that story that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor came quite close to a balaclava-wearing thug?
Would you know, Mark, I was quite surprised because I didn't realise that the King had actually withdrawn the funding for his security. So I was unaware that he didn't have the protection. So when I read about it, I kind of thought, well, how's that happened? Because I just assumed, a bit like when prime ministers and no longer prime ministers, they still get the security details. So I assumed he would have kept some sort of security details. So I was quite surprised that I think there was a detective or somebody with them. So I don't know if it means that it's been downsized or if he's funding it himself, a bit like what Harry and Meghan have got to do. But again, it's not going to help the situation, because I think what he will now do is put pressure on his brother to say, look, I'm a senior member in his view, a senior member of the royal family, and he should still have the protection. And of course, that's going to probably get Harry then going, well, wait a minute, what about me as well? So where do you draw the line? This is the problem. But their lives can be at risk because they are such famous, well-known individuals.
Most definitely. And as you'll understand, the Sandringham estate, which is where Andrew Mountbatten Windsor now lives, is much more public and far less secure than the Windsor estate from which he was removed.
Yeah, absolutely. Sandringham and Balmoral, Mark, and I'm sure you've been to had a wander around the estates, because anyone can wander around them. They're very similar. There is a security perimeter, if you like, and within this very small area, and that is what's policed. The rest of it, you can wonder. I mean, I remember the Queen consort going for walks on the Loch Nagar, and the late Queen, and they would tell you that they would bump into members of the public who didn't even recognise them, which is even funnier, and probably a good thing they didn't recognise them. So there is always that risk. But of course, senior members of the royal family do have a security detail, not necessarily always right beside them, but they're not that far away. And I think this, as I said, this is the issue, is that when Andrew's living on the Sandringham estate, which is now his home, he is going to go out and about. He is going to be in amongst the public. And, you know, the only thing I can suggest him is if he hasn't got his security detail, maybe get a pair of shades and a baseball cap because, you know, I think it'd be better. I think that'd be a safer option than just wandering around looking like himself.
And this will strengthen the resolve of the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, to get the royal protection that he seeks when he's in the UK.
I think so. I think this is going to kind of go in his favour because you can hear it now. You can hear him saying to either his father or to the advisor, "This is why we need security because look what happened to my uncle." And I'm in a similar situation in the UK with somebody. But the reality is, Matt, I mean, I think with the security detail, yes, they're great at being there and they're great to protect them. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I know that the king is quite a remarkable individual because sometimes you will actually see him. I've seen him walking around on the Highgrove estate, and there is detectives nearby. I don't think there isn't, but he hasn't got them right beside him. So, I mean, the thing about the king is he would rather have his own independence when he's out and about if he can. And it's extraordinary that Harry, his own son, who knows this, wants to have almost like a sort of presidential, I imagine, detail around him, which is ludicrous. And of course, it costs a lot of money. I mean, this is the reality. This is why the king's been so careful about it, because he's aware that it's our money that's been used to protect these individuals.
Does it strike you as contradictory that Prince Harry will travel to war-torn Ukraine or countries like Mexico, which have big problems with crime, but he doesn't feel safe in central London?
Absolutely. Now, what his argument, I think, will be, and I'm not for this at all, Matt, you know this, I always kind of sit in the fence, but his argument will be he's probably less likely to be recognised. That'll be his argument. I disagree because I think he is one of the most recognisable faces in the world. But his argument will probably be, it's safer, which is ludicrous. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love London. I mean, I think with London, it can be a dangerous place. Anywhere can be dangerous. You could go anywhere. But I think at the end of the day, he's got, what I can't understand, Matt, and this is just my view, it's not like he hasn't got money. And if I had his kind of money and I was really that worried about security, I would just fund it. I would just pay for it myself. Other celebrities, other well-known individuals, they don't go to the Met and say we need security. Obviously the Met, depending on what the occasion is. I mean, somebody said to me about Taylor Swift last year having police escort. Well, that was obviously because she was in London, she was doing the series of concerts. There is a risk to her, absolute risk to her life, and so it's decided that she gets, for temporary time, she gets that security. But that's only temporary. Where Harry's wanting it obviously full time, and that's what will cost you and me and the taxpayer the money.
Now, I was joined a couple of days ago on this show by Hilary Fordwich, who's a very well-placed royal journalist and broadcaster. She's in the US. And Grant, she told me that while she's very fond of Prince Harry, she doesn't think that he's happy in his new life in America. What's your view?
I was talking to some other broadcasters who I'm actually working with at the moment, Joe Elvin, and I'm sure you know Joe Elvin and Kate Nichol as well. And
brilliant broadcasters, of course, because we need to plug that. It's the fantastic new show, backed by Piers Morgan, no less. Tell us about that. What's it called?
Oh, it's great fun, Mark. It's Piers' idea, his brainchild. It's called Royals Uncensored. It's with Joe, Katie, and myself, where every week we have a discussion. We get into the kind of, it's called Uncensored, but it's uncensored. We've got some amazing guests that will come on and join us, and we just give a kind of hopefully a different perspective and an open conversation. But we were actually talking, we talk about a lot about these kind of different things, and we were talking about Harry. And we all agree that that he must be unhappy. We just get the feeling he is unhappy. And of course, you've got to remember Kate and Joe, who have got a lot of experience in broadcasting. They've got a lot of connections. They've got the connections to also kind of tell them the same information as I'm hearing, is that he isn't that happy. And that you kind of wonder if you could put the clock back. Would he, his potential, would he make a different? It's a difficult one because now he's got his children, and I have no doubt he loves his children. And on that basis, he wouldn't want to change that. But I'm just saying, if he could have had a different life, I wonder if he would have picked a different. I mean, when I knew him, it was in the days of Chelsea Davies, who he absolutely adored. So it's a very different time. But who knows? Time. I think I will say to Matt, time will tell. I mean, a lot of friends say to me, "Do I think this will last?" You never know. It is possible it will, and it's also possible one day he could turn around and say, I've had enough. But then the problem is, can he come back into the fold? Because I see his father forgiving him, but I do not see his brother forgiving him.
Now, as you've rightly said, he loves his kids, and that's not something he would change. So setting that aside, if he was in a time machine, when you talk about different choices, do you mean marrying Meghan Markle or do you mean leaving the UK with Megs?
All of it. All
Wow.
the decisions. I kind of wonder if he would have, because, you know, I kind of think, would he have maybe, if somebody sat with a ball, you know, crystal ball and said, this is your future, because it's really difficult, and it's you know, I haven't seen him in years and I have no idea what's going on, but all I know is that when I did know him, he was a very happy, carefree, funny, witty, silly kind of character. You know, made everybody kind of laugh. Got on. Can I just say for the record, and you may have talked this from Mark, got on with everybody. I'm going to talk about all the family. There was no issues. And suddenly we've got this very different version of him. And I mean, we grow up. You know, people change, and it's policies change. It's such a drastic change. And I think I feel sorry for the family because I know how much his father did for him over the years. And I can understand there must be a lot of heart and upset. And I'm sure maybe it's possible Harry is trying to rectify that. For all we know, he could be trying to rectify it. But I do wonder if he could have changed his life. It's obviously, this is not talking about his children, who I know he absolutely adores and loves, quite rightly. This is, if he hadn't gone this far down, would he have gone for a different life? You know, and I think potentially he would have.
Well, yes. I mean, if you just look at the trajectory of his life since Megxit and since his marriage to Meghan Markle, well, now he's struggling to make a living. Yes, they've got a few million in the bank, but the income has dropped. The trip to Australia was criticised because it was perceived as a fake royal tour, and it accrued plenty of negative headlines, particularly the couple going to a children's hospital, posing with patients and, of course, hugging victims of Bondi Beach before selling the clothes that they were wearing online. Then you've also got the issue of the charities, which are, I would say, not in rude health. There is a developing story that Invictus has lost a major sponsor for next year in Boeing. You just wonder, with all the negative headlines and all the problems the Prince faces, that all roads lead to Meghan. Is that unfair?
No, I don't think it's unfair. I mean, I think that's the general kind of feeling. And, you know, when anyone kind of comes up to me to talk, you know, as you know, when I'm on my ships or even just out and about, you know, out and about, people come up and talk to me about it. And whether it's right or wrong, and it's really, because we're not behind closed doors and you don't really know, but you know, they immediately blame Meghan. They say that the Harry they see now is not the Harry that we all fell in love with, especially after the death of his late mother and watching that little boy walk behind the coffin. Everybody just wants to protect him. And we've gone from that that iconic image to a Harry today that a lot of people do not respect or like, because, and I think the reason they've got such a kind of I don't want to use the word hatred, that's a strong word, but such a dislike of him is because of what they felt that he did towards his grandmother at the end of her life. I think they feel that that was one of her lasting memories, and that's what I think, that's honestly what I think people can't forgive him for. I think they can't forgive that he put her through that whole Sandringham summit and this potential fallout and everything going on and walking away from the royal family, because the poor Queen had never seen anything like it since her uncle Edward VIII, and I'm sure she would probably sit there thinking, what is going on? And that was her kind of lasting memories of you know, her family.
Most definitely. Well, it's certainly my view that Harry, you know, on purpose or inadvertently, made the late Queen's life a misery towards the end. She had to worry about what was going to be in that book, Spare. She had to deal with the fallout from the Oprah interview. I think it's quite shocking, Grant, what he did put the family through, possibly egged on by Meghan. And you just mentioned there his brother. Is there any way back for Harry in regard to William as long as he's with Meghan?
No, see, and what you've just mentioned, as we just spoke about, that's what's on William adored his grandmother and he adores his father. And I think he will see this as disloyal, dare I say, an attack, you know, on his family. This is why William has closed the doors. Now, I think years ago, I defended them. I said it was unlikely they were falling out. And now I'm fully aware that they have fallen out. They're not speaking. And even if Harry is speaking to his father, which is what's been said, I find it very hard to believe that he will have any communication with his brother. His brother, William, who's an amazing individual, and can I say with the greatest respect, he'll stand by what he feels right. He's a very, very strong character, and he really doesn't suffer fools. And I can imagine that he'll be the tough one in this. He'll be the one that will be kind of saying, you know, that the way the family was treated, he won't forgive him. And of course, time is a healer. and people do forgive over time. So you can never say never. You know, it's possible in the years to come. But what I don't think would happen is I don't think William would welcome him back into the family with open arms and give him a senior role again within the family. That I very much doubt.
No way back. Pretty damning stuff, Grant. What a delight to see you. The show is out now and it's pulling up trees. Royals Uncensored on YouTube.
Royals Uncensored. Yeah, absolutely. It's on YouTube, and we've got a fantastic audience tuning in, and it's great fun. And as you know, they're a great team. It's a wonderful little family to work with. So I'm very lucky.
Well, listen, they're lucky to have you. You are, of course, also the author of the hit book, The Royal Butler, My Remarkable Life of Royal Service, which has been a massive hit on the book charts. Thank you, Grant. We'll catch up soon. My thanks to Grant Harold, the former Royal Butler. Quite a big showbiz story. It's a bit of a story that's caught a lot of people's attention. Tess Daly and Vernon Kay are to divorce after over 20 years of marriage. What's going on? Well, we've got the inside story from the best connected showbiz journalist in the country next.
Welcome to Down the Local, the show that goes from pub to pub across the country, speaking to the punters about the subjects driving us all nuts at the moment.
That's Rachel Reeves, Rachel Thieves, Rachel McCounts.
I don't really know Meghan Markle. I know Meghan Markle's from Suits. That's about it.
I don't know about anyone else, and I don't know where this is going. I have 0% beers, and I feel
raising the flag, I think, is symptomatic of its desperation.
Is public transport
across the UK on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Two of the biggest names in showbiz, Tess Daly and Vernon Kay, are to divorce after over 20 years of marriage. What is the story? Sarah Louise Robertson, formerly of the Daily Mail and now Pop Bitch, joins us. Good morning, Sarah Louise.
Hi there, Mark. Sorry, not Pop Bitch. Digital Spy.
I've gone completely mad, and that's the last time I'll improvise. I'm trying to get across this because it's a massive new promotion for you. Tell me more about the job, because it's huge.
It is. I start tomorrow, so this is my last day of freedom, and then I'm into the bear pit.
Digital Spy is massive for showbiz scoops, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the biggest entertainment site in the UK. Massive. It's been running for over 20 years, and I'm going to be editing it as of tomorrow, so that's very exciting.
Well, big congratulations, and what you'll do is you'll be putting Pop Bitch out of business, and then I won't have to mention them again.
Well, that's a completely different thing. No, it has nothing to do with us, so don't worry.
No, that's it. Well, look, Sarah Louise, congratulations on that. Digital Spy are absolutely huge, and they're going to be across this. So what is the inside story? Tess Daly and Vernon Kay to divorce. No one saw this coming, did they?
No, it's a bit of a strange one, Mark, this one. Because Tess and Vernon were that celebrity couple that were seen to have a rock solid marriage, and to be together to be married for 23 years, together for 25 years is a huge achievement in itself. And they've got two beautiful daughters who they absolutely adore. But it was interesting now, looking back, that maybe little signs were there earlier this year. and that is they had stopped appearing on each other's Instagram feeds. That's always a kind of telltale sign that maybe something's not quite well between them, because they weren't really on each other's social media feeds as much as they had been in the past, and they seem to be doing things separately as a family. I noticed it myself at an event last year. Vernon came with his eldest daughter, and he's an amazing dad, absolutely, and was very much like, here's my daughter and it's her time, which of course it is, and she's living over in New York now. And I did think, where's Tess? But you obviously don't want to ask or anything. So I think there was like little things there that maybe they were carving out separate paths from one another in their lives. And this was all around the time as well that Tess decided to step away from Strictly Come Dancing. Now, I'm not saying that played a part in what's happened now. I don't know. It's obviously their private business, their decision. But I always think when it's something like this, when you look back, you see maybe little clues along the way, as I say, the not appearing on each other's social media feeds as much, and just coming to events separately, appearing at events separately, shall we say, rather than together, may have been a sign that things weren't as rock solid as what the public may have thought them to be.
And Vernon Kay has been a naughty boy in the past, hasn't he?
Well, I'm going to have to be very careful with this.
He stands accused, doesn't he, of messaging other women that weren't his wife at the time. It seems that the marriage survived that. But do you think there might have been lasting scars?
Well, it was 16 years ago, so it was back in 2010. It was allegations. I'm so sorry, my phone's clicking like mad. Sorry about this, Mark.
All good. That'll be Digital Spy. Excited to have you.
There was allegations made about Vernon texting a model back at the time. So this was back in 2010. And so that was a shock when that happened. But they weathered that storm. They got through it as a couple, and everything appeared to be rock solid. And no one, there was never any sort of questions after that, really. So I think this is why it's come as something of a surprise for everybody that this announcement has been made, and the way that they kind of slipped it out to the public on a late Friday afternoon. That's normally around about the time that people are getting ready to go home.
Oh, yeah.
It's quiet. We'd had all the news was around the election. So if you wanted to bury something and hopefully not have a big fuss made of it, they obviously chose that day well. But it seems like that, as I said to you, that they have been leading separate lives, I would say, in the last few months. They're apparently happy to co-parent. They're still staying in the same house until Vernon will be getting his own place in due course, probably in the city through the week, because he's working in London on his Radio 2 show through the week. But at the moment, they're still in the family home, and apparently everything's very amicable. They remain great friends. They're just keen to keep co-parenting their two daughters, and showing them that as a family unit, they are still a family unit, even though they're not prepared to be wed to one another anymore in that traditional.
No evidence, Sarah Louise, that there are any other people involved, and these two have got plenty of money, so even when they do divorce, no one's going hungry.
Yes, I mean, a combined fortune of millions, both of them equally successful in their own right. And as I say, Vernon's doing absolutely great guns with his Radio 2 show. He seems to be getting on great with that. Tess obviously has made the decision to step away from Strictly. She has her swimwear brand and I think some other advertising deals. And she's a fantastic presenter. Look, both of them individually are great people. I've met and interviewed both Tess and Vernon over the years. Tess is very professional, extremely professional, very good at her job. As I say, an excellent presenter when she was on Strictly, and what I would call a grafter. She's a hard worker. She gets on with it, and professional. Vernon is more your cheeky northern lad. Again, great at what he does, a natural on TV, has natural personality. That kind of like, I don't know, what would you call it? Joie de vivre. He's very warm, very gregarious, and it likes to go out. Yes, they're sort of different. They're different people, but both of them are very professional and very fantastic at what they do. And I think they'll go on to do absolutely great going forth in their careers as it is. There's talk that Tess is wanting to do some travelling. She's 57. She's obviously led such a massive show for more than a decade on BBC One. Leading a Saturday night show is a big thing, and apparently there's talk that she wants to have something of a gap year and go travelling and kind of see the world and maybe do the things that she didn't do when she was younger. I think with the eldest daughter Phoebe being in New York and watching her eldest daughter live her life and do all of that, maybe could have got Tess thinking that she wants a different way of life to the life she's led for the last 25 years, that she's looking for something different. And I think that sometimes happens to women. They get through that stage of life, the M word, motherhood's kind of coming to an end as such, and they find their wings and want to spread their wings and try something new. And maybe that's what Tess is wanting to do. She's wanting to find a different adventure in her life, and I wish them both well with that as they do that separately.
Well, Sarah Louise, we wish you well. It's one of the biggest jobs in media. Congratulations. You are the editor of Digital Spy, who are absolutely huge for Showbiz Scoops, and I look forward to many of those to come, and I hope you'll share them here on the show.
I'll be back, don't worry. And I still will be doing some royal stuff as well, so don't worry, Mark.
Yeah, she's across all of it. The brilliant Sarah Louise Robertson, thank you so much for that. So much more to come, folks. A very, very busy hour. Dolan's Dispatch is on the way. I'll be dealing with Keir Starmer in no uncertain terms. Should he stay, should he go? I'll be giving my verdict. Lots more to get through, and your calls, by the way. Will a new leader save the Labour Party? 0344 499 1000. As the saying goes, let's talk.
At 11:16 this morning, two men, aged 76 and 34, were attacked on Highfield Avenue in Barnet. They suffered stab wounds in the attack and are now being looked after in hospital.
We need to make sure that when people carry out these activities, they feel the full force of the law. People think they can get away with this. The person who firebombed a few weeks ago is out on bail. That's not full force of the law.
This crisis, it's a crisis for all of us. It's not enough to simply say we stand with Jewish communities. Of course we do, but we must show it and act it. And the responsibility lies with each and every one of us, because it is our fight too.
Let's stop importing people from countries where anti-Semitism is the norm. And if our London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, in his infinite wisdom and belief in diversity, thinks that's the sort of diverse view that it's OK to have on the streets of London and the police don't get involved, don't be shocked, and don't you bloody dare claim to be shocked or upset or care about Jewish people being stabbed on the streets of our capital city in broad daylight. This is on you.
You keep getting proven right every single time. Jews are not safe in this country.
Well, absolutely. No one can be surprised or feeling shocked that this happened. No Jew certainly is. I mean, we had Zach Balansky last week saying this was just a perceived threat. Well, we can see this isn't any perception. This is real. This is happening on the streets. This isn't just an anti-Semitic terror attack. This is an attack on Britain, on the Western liberal democracy and values.
The first politician that uses the word shocking, I might just go and throttle him, because this is anything but shocking. It's the most expected thing is almost overdue, if you ask me, because, I mean, I just left Israel last week. I thought it would be the last time we were woken up by explosions, but clearly not.
The Jewish community is our community, and their safety is our safety. And we have to make it absolutely clear, robust, strong leadership, and this has to stop, because otherwise it's going to be, it's almost being normalised, and it's terrifying, and we're sick of it. Enough's enough.
Our plan is a complete step change in how we protect communities, moving beyond piecemeal responses to a sustained nationwide effort, one that ensures that people across the United Kingdom can live freely and without fear.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Oh dear, Keir. Top of the morning, 3 minutes past 9. This is Talk Breakfast. Mark Dolan with you for a very big hour. Breaking this morning, Starmer in meltdown, disarray in number 10 as the Prime Minister fights for his political survival. Is it now end of days for the most unpopular PM in the history of modern polling? And as for the governing party, well, they've descended into a bloody civil war. You can't believe it, can you? There are so many problems in the country. Rising inflation, rising unemployment, non-existent growth, open borders, spiralling debt, sky-high energy prices, and they're having a beauty contest. What an ugly scene. So what next for the country and the party? What do you think, folks? Can a new leader save Labour? Farage is making headlines as well in the Sunday Express. He's told the paper the best is yet to come. Is that true? Is Nigel Farage now on a roll? Can he win the next election? Now, I'm delighted to say that you can hear us on the radio, DAB+, in-app and online. You can also watch the show. Head to YouTube and search Talk. Nahar is directing our TV output. So you can see my guests. You can watch the brilliant Dolan's Dispatch. It's on its way. So much to get through, folks. 0344 499 1000. Text the word Talk and your message to 87222. Leave us a voice note. And as the saying goes, let's talk. And I've got to tell you that I meet so many fans of Talk and of Talk Breakfast. I'm so honoured. I can't go anywhere now without being stopped because we are building a massive army. 40,000 people watched this show live yesterday on YouTube. Just head to YouTube, search Talk, hit the live button up, we pop. 40,000 people watched us yesterday. That's going to be 100 soon. And one of our amazing supporters is a London cabbie. His name is Matt. He's a very wise man who supports Tottenham. He loves what we're doing here, and it's a big shout out to all of the taxi drivers across the country who do such an important job, big part of our economy. But big up to Matt, who's out there in his cab today, earning a crust. And of course, he's paying his taxes. That won't even touch the sides in relation to the cost of illegal immigration, net zero, and a country that lives beyond its means. But anyway, here's to Matt and everyone listening to and watching the show. So much to get through. Let's talk. We kick off, as always, at this point in the show, every Friday, Saturday and Sunday, with Dolan's Dispatch. You know, I'm going to kind of miss Keir Starmer when he's gone, because he is so mesmerisingly bad, it's quite entertaining. He's a man of unparalleled and metronomically poor judgment. He's the broken clock that isn't even right twice a day. This is a guy that doesn't have a clue what he's doing. He's got no ideas. Number 10 Insiders told the Sunday Times a couple of months ago that he's the least curious man they've ever met. Keir Starmer has no instincts, no rational brain, no logic, and absolutely no common sense whatsoever. Starmer's reverse Midas touch is so bad, if he rolled a dice, he'd probably get 0. If he flipped a coin, he'd get neither heads nor tails. He backed Jeremy Corbyn to be leader of the Labour Party. He tried to reverse Brexit. He pretended to be left-wing, then he pretended to be right-wing, then he was neither. He doesn't know what a woman is, even though he's married to one, having, as usual, picked the wrong side in the mad debate around gender. He backed the ruinous lockdowns during COVID and wanted more. He got in a pickle when asked about working people. Well, Nick, working people are people that, you know, go to work. Isn't that everyone, Prime Minister? Yes, Nick, well, that is everyone. He calls grieving locals in Southport far right for being angry about the consequences of mass immigration. He effectively sides with Hamas by recognising the state of Palestine at the very moment that Israel were fighting for their existence after the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust. He has pandered to the sectarian Muslim vote. He picked a needless fight with our number one ally, the United States, and President Donald Trump, and chose to sit out a noble war against Iran, one of the most wicked regimes in human history. This is a guy that grew the economy by shrinking it, fixed the foundations of the economy by demolishing them. He hiked the minimum wage, which hiked youth unemployment. He boosted workers' rights, which is putting workers out of a job. He taxes businesses, which sees them shut down. He pours concrete into oil wells in the North Sea so that we can then more expensively and with a higher carbon footprint import energy from overseas from worse regimes. He boosts renters' rights by provoking landlords to sell up, making life a misery for renters, many of whom now have nowhere to live. I could go on. It is so bad across the board that it's really quite entertaining. Tackling a cost of living crisis with more taxing, spending and borrowing, and with unaffordable payouts in the public sector, which of course creates inflation. So Starmer has policies which create inflation. Then he tells the Mirror today that he's going to deal with inflation. Make it make sense. Putting Keir Starmer in charge of the economy, it is like putting Count Dracula in charge of the nation's blood supplies. And here we go again, as the perennially wrong Prime Minister seeks to recalibrate and reboot his ailing premiership with 2 top appointments, including enter stage left. Are you ready for this? Gordon Brown. You heard me right. Gordon Brown is back. We're in the Brown stuff, folks. This is a Chancellor, right? Gordon Brown, a former Chancellor, notorious for racking up our national debt, exposing us to the worst aspects of the 2008 financial crash. And we know that these socialists aren't great with money. Gordon Brown famously sold 395 tonnes of our gold reserves at the bottom of the market. For some strange reason, he even told the market in advance. Gold has since risen in value by 1,500%. And the gold that he sold would now be worth 40 billion more than what we accrued. So we are down 40 billion. You heard me right. We are down 40 billion thanks to the business acumen of Gordon Brown. And Starmer's like, hold my beer, let's get him back. And this guy now is a financial guru to the Prime Minister. But it gets worse, because he's appointed a Labour lifer in Harriet Harman, a serial political failure, as an advisor on women and girls. Well, that's a bit tricky, because this is a woman that doesn't know what a woman or a girl is. Harriet Harman thinks if you've got a Willy Winkle but call yourself Deborah, you're a lady. That's what she believes. Very tricky to be an advisor on women and girls if you're signed up to the madness of trans ideology that will have you believe it's appropriate for a male double rapist to be accommodated in a female prison, and for biological males to use female changing rooms, female bathrooms, and to participate in female sport. That doesn't sound to me like the protection of women and girls. Don't take my word for it. The genius author J.K. Rowling has posted the following on X. Bravo, Keir Starmer, for getting in an advisor on women and girls who thinks the definition of women and girls includes men and boys. That will definitely win back, she says, people who believe that Labour is a party for smug, lanyard-wearing, luxury belief-having, cultural elitists. She nailed it. It gets worse. If you thought that was bad, we've got an advisor here brought in by Starmer, an advisor on women and girls that doesn't know what a woman is or a girl is. It gets worse. Are you ready for this? Are you sitting down? Are you sitting comfortably? Because old Harriet Harman, she loves a paedophile. Does our Harriet Harman? Harriet Harman loves a paedophile. Because she and her husband were senior officials in the National Council for Civil Liberties, it's now known as Liberty, when it supported the paedophile information exchange. Harman was the legal officer for Liberty when it affiliated with this wicked, creepy and sinister group, the paedophile information exchange. She is the legal officer. She reportedly did nothing to disassociate, disconnect with or throw out this wicked group. Now, what do they believe? At the time, when she was there at Liberty, what did the paedophile information exchange believe? Well, they wanted and campaigned to reduce the age of consent so that adults could be intimate with children. OK, that was their stated policy. And they argued that images of children of a sexual nature, such as a 10-year-old, as long as there's no evidence of some kind of attack, that should be legal. So they campaigned for child pornography and for children to be attacked by adults. That was policy. She was their legal officer of Liberty at the time when they're affiliated to this organisation. Of course, Keir Starmer has previous on people who are friendly with paedophiles. I give you Peter Mandelson, the scandal around which will likely prove to be the final nail in the coffin for Keir Starmer. You've got a former director of media operations at Number 10 who campaigned for a paedophile to win high office. There's a theme emerging here, isn't there? The whole thing stinks. Where to start with Starmer? A war on farmers, a war on pensioners, a war on wealth creators, appointing senior figures with shameful links to paedophiles, gaslighting your own population over dangerous illegal immigration, throwing real women under the bus in the name of woke gender ideology, bankrupting the country, having policies which are seeing 2 pubs a day closing down, sacrificing entire industries at the altar of net zero. So how do you solve a problem like Keir Starmer? Well, I say keep him in post. That's right, I'd keep him in Number 10 for 3 years, because it's only then that the country will vote for the change that we so desperately need. With any luck, Keir Starmer will be the last Prime Minister the Labour Party ever have. So, will a new leader save Starmer? No. Will a new leader save Labour? It ain't going to happen. Labour are done and Starmer is toast. 0344 499 1000. Angela is in North Wales. Good morning, Angela.
Morning, Mark. Brilliant show.
Oh, thank you, Angela. I really appreciate it. What are your thoughts about Reform UK? Because you've got the front page of the Sunday Express here. The best is yet to come, says Nigel Farage.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I've just been listening to you about Gordon Brown, and I live in North Wales. The rot set in, basically, with Tony Blair and Gordon Brown when they first started devolution. Well, devolution's been the worst thing ever for Wales. We've gone down the pan in the last 27 years. Labour governments have been voted in for the last 27 years, basically, mainly from the people in South Wales and the valleys and the ex-mining communities. And it's absolutely terrible because it's been propped up by Plaid on any decision, and that it's been propped up by Plaid. Now we've got Plaid as the main government in Wales.
Yeah.
Going to be propped up by Labour, and it's going to be Labour on steroids. It's just going to absolutely be 20 times worse. Now, my only hope for Wales was to get Nigel in. I'm a Reform supporter, and I've been out campaigning for them, and I'm a Reform member, and I I guessed the signs basically 12 months ago that we weren't going to get in, but it's just dire. I think I was speaking to a load of my friends yesterday, well, so-called friends, and these are intelligent people, and yet they said they would never vote for Nigel because he lies. The tactical voting, I think, will keep reform out of power. Even in England, people are just going to do their utmost to just keep him out of power. And that's the change we really need, not this, I just despair. I think we're just completely done for. And I'm so glad I'm the age I am. I'll be 70 next month. And I just think, well, I've seen the best of times. I mean, young people today and the 16-year-olds that are voting, they have no concept of what this country was like 40 years ago, or 50 years ago. I mean, in the 1980s, where we had 5 or 6% growth, we can't even get half of 1% now. And you just think, well, even though we had high interest inflation rates in the 1980s, we managed to cope with it because we had good high wages. You know, the country was prospering. We had good manufacturing industries, loads of employment. And I just think, I just don't know where the heck this country's going to next. I really don't.
Well, I agree. I think that the parliamentary mathematics are a problem in Wales and across the country, Angela, because what you've got in a way is a left-wing progressive stitch-up in Wales with Plaid now, the dominant party there. And as you've hinted, they're going to be more left-wing than even the Labour administration in Wales, aren't they?
Dreadful. I just despair. I really do. And the thing was, I was listening to Ian Apiorath the other day on the TV, and they said, well, you want tax-raising powers in Wales, don't you? And he said, oh, yes, but we don't want to raise the income tax. We don't want... But then the interviewer said, well, why do you want to have tax-raising powers in Wales then? I mean, it just doesn't stack up. And the other thing is, we were already rebanded. Our council tax is much, much higher in Wales than what it is in England. We were rebanded several years ago. My brother's council tax went up two grades. On a two-bedroom bungalow, he ended up paying F, band F. And he's only got a small, pokey little bungalow. And the other thing is, he wants to reband us all again within another 18 months to 2 years' time. And he wants to clobber the people in the north. Anything over a band D, he wants to increase our council tax so that the ones in South Wales, in the little terraced houses in the valleys, pay less. So a lot of my other friends are thinking, well, I've had enough of Wales. I've lived here all my life. I was born here. We've got to get out. I really have got to move in somewhere else. This is just becoming beyond a joke.
Well,
now.
I know, and it's really sad. I'm glad you mentioned about young people, because I've got two sons, 20 and 17. And they don't remember, like you and I do remember, but that they don't recognise a Britain of the 70s and 80s when we had a coherent, happy society. We had cheap energy. People rubbed along really well, good paying jobs. There was hope.
We managed to pay for things, because even though my mortgage went up to about 16%, but I still managed to pay for it, So, and I've never been on benefits in my life, never, ever had anything from the state, and yet I get a very small state pension. They take £200 every 4 weeks off me because of SERPs. In the 1980s, when I worked for the electricity board, we had to pay a tiny, slight fraction less of national insurance, and it's put into what they call a state-related pension scheme. And now they take £200 a month off me. They keep saying about pensioners and stop the triple lock. My state pension is only just over £700 every 4 weeks. It's based on a 4-weekly payment scheme.
You're not getting rich on that, are you?
So we're not getting rich on it. So I have to rely on my company pension schemes, and they're just going down. All my savings and everything, it's just being squandered, just going down to keep my head above water. It's just ridiculous. And yet they take money off me to pay for free childcare, free school meals, free breakfast clubs and all that of people who probably are earning up to £90,000 a year and can pay for their own kids. I just...
Angela, you speak for a nation. I'm so happy that you called. I understand it's the first time you've called Talk Breakfast. I'd love us to chat again because you talk a lot of sense and you represent the concerns
Mark. Thank you.
So many people watching and listening. So call me again soon, Angela. Keep the faith.
Mark.
Well, thank you. And listen, we'll speak soon. And I think Angela's raised so many important points there about a very rapidly changing society and country that no one voted for, sky-high energy bills, inflation, horrible left-wing policies. And it's interesting because the concern there is that we'll be stuck with that for the next 10 or 20 years as the left coalesce and keep someone like Farage out of power. So much more to come. Can a new leader save Labour? This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
You're listening to Talk Breakfast. Let's take a voice note from Jennifer on Labour.
Morning, Mark. Another leader is not going to win Labour another general election. The reason being, there is not going to be another leader for the Labour Party. I really am going to stick to my... I'm going to stick my neck on the line here again and say he's not going to resign. There's no way. This man is power hungry. He doesn't feel the hatred. He doesn't feel... He has no care. He doesn't give a toss about what people think of him. He doesn't care. He's got no feelings. There's just nothing to the man other than power hungry. He is absolutely power hungry. He is a manipulator. And why is people so surprised that Gordon Brown and Harriet Herman have been brought back in? We know the man has got bad judgment. You know, it literally is. It's just a terrible, terrible nightmare joke that we are living through at the moment.
Thank you for that, Jennifer. And look, let's quickly slam one more. And this is from Sylvia.
Morning.
Didn't sound like Sylvia. Sylvia might have had a sex change, identifying now as Big Bob. Live in the studio, identifying as BBC radio legend Alex Dyke. Great to see you, Alex.
Thank you very much, Mark. I was just listening to that voice note there thinking, is it that Keir Starmer can't read the room, or is it that actually maybe those around him are protecting him from public opinion? But he must watch channels like this. He must read newspapers. He does meet voters. Is it that he's power crazed, or is it that he just cannot read the room?
He also seems, Alex Dyke, impervious to self-reflection. I just wonder whether he has a personality and a makeup that is very ill-suited to power.
Well, maybe. Very few people get to be Prime Minister. It is a good gig. If it's the kind of thing you want to do, why would you want to give it up? In his defence, isn't he going to hang on and hang on and hang on?
He is. He's going to cling on for dear life, and that is the shape of things to come. What are the other big stories that are grinding your gears this morning?
Well, there's something, before we get to a big story, I've got a photograph I'd like to show you, and for the TV viewers, we can put it up on the screen, and those listening to the radio, maybe we can describe it to them. But the sad news, Mark, is that's my little VW there, getting caught in a yellow box junction on my way.
No.
Just caught because the guy in front of me pulled up pretty quickly. So there I am stuck. And I may not be able to come into Talk Towers much anymore because every time I come in, I seem to get a speeding fine for breaking a 20-mile-an-hour limit. And now you may say, Alex, but you were speeding in that 20-mile-an-hour limit. And I would say, yes, I was, and I'm guilty. But if like me, you've been driving for years and years and years, we've conditioned our brains to kind of suss out what is a built-up area and a 30-mile-an-hour limit. And old habits die hard. And I have been caught a few times doing 25, 26 miles an hour in a 20-mile-an-hour limit.
Ridiculous.
Because my car wants to stall. If you're not doing over 20, it's like your car's going to conk out. So then there's parking tickets, there's yellow box junctions, there's bus lanes. I swerved into a bus lane the other day because of roadworks. I was only in it for about 2 seconds. The camera went off. It's like, Mark, these big cities, not just London, we're talking Glasgow, Edinburgh, Birmingham, Manchester. It's like we're a live action cash machine with CCTV. And the likes of you and I and other people listening, we've got loyalty cards now because we are spending so much money. The City of Westminster have led on this, and I'm fed up with it. I'm just fed up with it. And I was doing Phil Dave's Down the Local.
Yeah, great show on YouTube.
It's a great show on YouTube, and I saw it at the weekend on Talk. And I was on there with this barrister, Steve Barrett. Steve Barrett. He's brilliant.
Yeah, yes.
Great hair too. That's a mane he's got going there, isn't it?
It is.
And I asked him about it, and Steve said, this is the left making you feel uncomfortable, keeping you anxious. This is Big Brother, and I couldn't agree more. So I just wanted to say hello and good morning to all of those innocent people who are getting persecuted. I'm not saying you're 100% innocent if you break the speed limit, but generally these are good people who could lose their driving licenses.
Doing 24 miles an hour in a 20 is absolutely ridiculous, which is why Wales did so well in the local, why Labour did so badly in the Wales local elections, because one of the things is that people are fed up with the 20-mile-an-hour zones across the country. This war on motorists is a problem because people in cars are also normally economically productive, aren't they?
Absolutely. They are going in to, and like here, I can't get here in the morning on public transport. To get here this morning, I had to leave my house at 4:30. So I need to bring my car in. So I just wanted to say that today, not just about me, but about everyone who's getting caught.
Most definitely. What else has caught your eye this morning?
Right, a couple of things here. There's something on the high street in the Sunday. In fact, there's a couple of good things in the Sunday Express I wanted to share with you. The headline is how UK's declining high streets open doors to crime gangs. So Britain's high street crisis has created ideal conditions for crime kingpins, says the Express. Money laundering hubs. The Home Secretary is quite worried about this. Boarded up shops, and you know, these places look so. They look so sad now, don't they? I made some notes, actually, of what my town that I grew up in used to have, right? All of this is gone. Dozens of shops, of course. Proud local shopkeepers. I know there are a few left, but there are so many that have gone. We lost the bus station, 6 banks, 3 garages, including filling stations, 3 casinos in a small town back in the day, 4 nightclubs, a police station, 2 cinemas, and a bingo hall. And that's just off the top of my head.
All of those places are a hub for the community, a place for people to gather, and big employers.
Yes, exactly. And I had that all written down. It's like you read my mind or my postnote.
Wow.
And you didn't. I had hub, community, and now we are to blame for if you roll back. In the early 80s in Britain, we started this out-of-town shopping.
Yeah.
Wow, we've got a Tesco, but we've got to drive to it. Fantastic. There's a Curry's superstore, but we've got to go out of town and drive to it. So this is all down to us, really. And then, of course, the internet only made things worse. But in 2024, 13,000 shops closed around the UK. This year, it looks like it's going to be another 17,000. And in America, they were traditionally called these the ma and pa shops. You know, a married couple running maybe a wool shop or some small shop, a sweet shop or something like that. And they're all going. Anyway, there's more
well, that's
on that.
very good. By the way, Rory, I think we might have a response to your driving problems from Paul in Southampton. Maybe we'll quickly grab that call before you run.
Absolutely.
What else have you got for us?
I've got another one here, which I thought might make you gasp. This is also in the Express, Mark. The Duchess of Sussex is set to be offered a multi-million-dollar deal to star in a big Hollywood movie. So, yeah, get this. Just when you thought Meghan may have been running out of cash, it looks like she could be back playing the role that she was made famous for, Rachel Zane in Suits. In Hollywood. Now, the devil
would that be the TV show or would it be a movie version?
It's a movie version of the TV show.
Wow.
Right? So we hear a lot of bad negative news about her and that Netflix are never going to renew any more contracts with her because everything she's done has turned to dust. However, get this, Suits topped the Netflix charts for months on end between 2023 and 2025, and in the summer of 2023 set a record that still stands, being watched around the world for 3.7 billion minutes every single week.
Well, there you go. Maybe Meghan has found a job at last. Paul is in Southampton. Paul, Alex Dyke has been complaining because he got done in a 20-mile-an-hour zone for speeding and he got caught in a box junction. What's your reaction?
I would say he needs to try and drive his car with a bit more responsibility. Every time he gets done for speeding, and that box junction is completely his own fault. You can't keep blaming other people. You don't enter a box junction unless you can get out the other side. So I've got no sympathy for him whatsoever.
Hang on a minute, Paul, hang on. You can see clearly from that picture, if you're watching it on the TV, that my brakes are on. The guy in front of me stopped short. They're impossible to judge 100%, particularly in busy inner cities. And you should know that if you live in Southampton. They've really changed the roads there. I'm not saying I'm 100% innocent, but I'm saying we have become a cash cow for local councils, Paul.
No, what they're doing is they're preying on the poor driving ability. I'm an HGV driver, and believe you me, I can't cross those boxes until I'm sure there's more than enough room for my lorry to get to the other side. And you should have done exactly the same. There was not enough room for you to go across that junction, and you shouldn't have gone until that car had left you enough room to go across. That's the rules.
There you go. Tough love. Bit of tough love from Paul there.
Yeah, but he's Captain Hindsight, isn't he? Has he never made a mistake?
No, it's not. When you they teach you to pass your test and then you get your experience as you go through life. But car drivers, you follow the tail lights of the car in front. You should have stopped and then let that car go forward. And it's the same with speeding. If you're in London, you've got a pretty new car there. You could have put in your sat-nav and put in the settings to warn you you're going over 20 miles an hour. And it will do that, and it will make you look at your speedo. Again, it's your own fault. It's just bad driving. You have to stop blaming everybody else for your bad driving. You made in that box, and I'm looking at it now, you made the decision to go across that box when there was not enough room for your car to fit on the other side.
There you go, Paul. You are a legend for putting Alex straight. Call me again soon on All Driving Matters. And Paul, I salute you as an HGV driver, a very, very important part of our infrastructure. We love our lorries, we love our truck drivers, our taxi drivers as well. Anyone that drives for a living has my utmost respect. Thank you for that. Alex, that's you told.
I know. I thought you
You're
might.
on the naughty step.
I know. I thought you might stand up for me, Mark. But I mean, the guy's a professional driver.
He's an expert.
I know.
We've got you back to rights.
I know. He has. Well done, Paul. You've made someone Sunday.
What we're going to do, so you don't get any more points, we're going to put you in a cab home.
Oh, thank you so much.
My thanks to the brilliant Alex Dyke. What a thrill to have you in the studio, Alex. So much more to come. Your calls next. Will a new leader save Labour?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's go rapid fire with some calls because I want to know your thoughts on this. Will a new leader save the Labour Party? Plus, I'm delighted to say we've got so many voice notes as well. David, are you ready? Shall we smash one out? Let's do it. Here we go.
Mark, this is Sylvia from Stony Stratford, Milton Keynes. I only caught the last bit of the lady you had on there regarding voting. Well, there was a large amount of Green vote in London because of the Gaza, Palestine and anti-Jew voting.
Yeah.
Because sadly, the Muslims and then you've got the extremists, the Islamists are voting. They're not voting for their bins or their potholes in the road or the schools or the hospitals. It's absolutely bonkers. I mean, it's ridiculous. Anyway, I just wanted to have my say. Thank you. Love
Sylvia,
the programme.
Well, thank you, my darling, and I really
bye-bye.
appreciate. Thank you, Sylvia, and the dog as well. It was a double act there. Brian is in London. Brian, top of the morning. Listen, what are your thoughts about what happened on Thursday, and what's it going to do to your vote?
Well, hello, Mark.
Hi,
I've got to
Brian.
say, mate. I mean, deep joy, mate. I think the people have spoken, especially the English people.
Yeah.
There's talking about Starmer for a start. Labour and Sir Keir, they are down to 20% of the total electorate. None of the above 40% is more popular than Sir Keir.
True.
They have upset and annoyed and ridiculed and insulted everybody. So now they're down to their rump. They can't grow they can't go anywhere. They can't grow. And to be honest, if you want someone to take over the Labour Party, I think you should get the ghost of, I think his name is Edward John Smith, the captain of the Titanic. Because that is the Keir Starmer. He's going in the wrong direction. You cannot tell him. Everyone on board is saying no. Well, us, in fact, the people not on board are saying you're going the wrong way. But he's going to lead and sink the Labour Party, and good riddance to him.
And the thing is, Brian, you're an interesting guy because you actually are formerly of the left. Is that right?
Well, I am. Well, I still am, mate. I am a lefty because I believe in a lot of things like nationalisation of essential industries.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to have a government that's going to run like the railways, you might as well have the British government rather than the French government. That sort of thing. I don't see why our water system should be profit related. I do agree. I mean, the NHS has gone way out. It's overmanaged, but I do believe that, we do need an NHS,
A free NHS. Yeah.
Free NHS. But on that lefty side, I also see immigration as a neoliberal thing. I mean, I've listened to a lot of experts, like the guy that was turning left earlier. He's turning left, all right. He's turning around and going around in circles. but I listened to a lot of these people to the other side of the left, the new rich people that are in the left, and they are neoliberals because what they say is let everyone turn up, stack them high, sell them cheap. Now, as a guy that lives on a council estate, as a guy that's I'm a working class bloke, I'm proud of it. You know what I mean? And I don't like these people. They don't represent me.
No, and actually, open borders, Brian. Open borders should not be a left-wing policy.
No, of course not. But do you know what? The unions are the same, though.
Yeah.
People are in the unions, and the unions they stop looking down at people in this country, and they start looking far afield and worrying about everyone else. And I don't think they should be doing that. The Labour Party, he disappears to China, old Sakir. It's like he's getting orders of how to rule us, you know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Brian, I wish we had longer. You've got to call me again soon. You're a legend. Another legend is Sue in Chelmsford. Hi, Sue.
Hello, Mark. Nice to see you on the telly again.
Lovely to be back. What do you think about this, Sue?
Well, I think trying to replace Starmer is like trying to replace a corpse trying to give a corpse a brain transplant, right? The Labour Party and the Tories are both corpse-like, and they're corpse-like because of net zero. It's been an experiment that's been going on for the past 20 years, and it's against the natural order of life, right? All life needs energy, and highly specialised complex societies like ours need lots of energy. And you're right to bang on about net zero and immigration because they are existential and they're connected. I mean, you could argue, for instance, that hydrocarbons did away with the need for slavery. And
it's a fair point.
Well, a litre of oil is like 100 days in kilowatt hours is like a man working for 100 days. A barrel of oil is like one man's work for 10 years. That's the actual power of hydrocarbons. And you can't replace that with, solar panels and wind power.
It ain't going to happen. Germany's an example of that. Sue, again, you've got to call me shortly because you spoke great wisdom. We're just up against it time-wise. But, Sue, have a good Sunday and promise me you'll call again. Paul's in Manchester. Morning, Paul.
Morning. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm very well. Will a new leader save Labour, do you think, Paul?
Can I just say the Emperor's new clothes?
Oh, Andy Burnham.
No. I'm saying everyone's telling Starmer how great he is from the Labour Party while they lead him to the guillotine.
Yeah.
That's what I want to say.
So what you say is he's kind of walking into a bear trap from his own party.
They're pushing him nice and gently. How great you are, what a great leader you are, what great policies you've got. And there's the pit, mate.
That is it. And Paul, listen, you're in Manchester. I'm not convinced by Andy Burnham. What do you think?
Well, no, I'm not convinced with him either. To be quite honest with you, he's quite an important factor in the job that I do. So, let me tell you, I'm not a big fan of him.
Is he the answer for Britain? Because I think he's another example of the Emperor's new clothes. 1 minute he's left wing, then he's right wing. He loves Tony Blair, then he loves Corbyn. I'm confused.
Yeah, the answer for Britain is called Nigel Farage. That's the answer.
Lots of people think that. Paul, I wish we had longer. Thank you for a fantastic call. Lots more to come. Will a new leader save Labour? This is Talk Breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
9:47 Talk Breakfast, and one of the King's newest and most trusted aides has vowed to repair the rift between Princes William and Harry to spare the King from further great pain. With the exclusive is Charlotte Griffiths, who is the editor-at-large at the Mail on Sunday. Good morning, Charlotte.
Morning.
Congratulations on the scoop. What's the story?
Well, there's this amazingly talented man called Theo Rycroft who is floating around in the palace now. He's second to Clive Alderton, who's the King's longest serving, really, right-hand man. And unlike Clive, who I think is an affable man, but is quite combative, let's say, whereas Charles isn't, Theo is this incredibly nice, sweet guy. And he sees it as his job to somehow protect the King by forcing William and Harry to shake hands with one another. How he will do that, I don't know, because he'll have to drag William kicking and screaming. But what they're saying is he is this incredible diplomat. He got William to meet with Donald Trump in Notre Dame, and that actually went really surprisingly well, given that William's a climate, activist. And also he, of course, did the same thing with the state visit with Donald Trump and Charles. It went incredibly well. Do you remember all those speeches were so funny and gentle, but also pushed the right buttons at the right time in this incredibly subtle way, nuanced left and right? Well, that was all, the hand of Theo. So people are now saying in the palace, look, if he can do that, if he can pull off Trump and Charles, can he pull off William just shaking hands through gritted teeth with his brother so that the King can enjoy some peace while he's going through cancer in, let's face it, the latter years of his life? And apparently Theo thinks it's his kind of personal mission and it's part of his duty to do so.
And when might this stage-managed handshake between William and Harry happen, if the Prince of Wales can be convinced to do so? Would that be this summer as Harry comes to the UK to count down to Invictus, or could it be next year?
I think plan A would be this summer, but more likely is plan B, because Harry's coming over twice. Once this summer to mark 1 year until the Invictus Games, and the second time for the actual Invictus Games in Birmingham next summer. So he's got a bit of a timeline to work with. And also, I suppose it depends how the King's health is doing as well. The sooner the better, I would say, for somebody who's got cancer. And, it's sad for him. He'd hate to kind of come towards the end of his life, hopefully in many, many years' time, knowing his two sons don't speak to each other. So there is a bit of a time frame, but I think it will have to be slowly catchy monkey, because William is a very stubborn man and he absolutely despises his brother.
So you would go that far? You would say that William despises Harry? Just give me a sense of the scale of anger that William feels towards his brother, Charlotte.
Well, the anger is so bad that it's got to a point where people can't even mention Harry's name in front of William. And in fact, William claims that he's not even angry with his brother because his brother is a non-person. He's gone beyond level 10 of anger up to level 11, where he just imagines the guy doesn't exist in the world. But he's going to have to face reality. He does have a brother. His brother does intend to come to the UK, especially in future years, because he may educate his son here. He is going to be around. Now, William, if he wants to, when he becomes king, he can strip Harry of his titles and try to pretend he's invisible. But for the time being, the King is the monarch, and the King is concerned about it and worried about it and doesn't need any more stress in his life. And that's why Theo, who's this Mr. Nice guy, is trying to work on a way in which they can at least be civil to one another, or at least William wouldn't be furious with his father if his father was to see Harry either this summer or next summer.
Of course, Harry and William share the same DNA, but would you go as far as to say, from the point of view of William, that in regard to Harry, they are no longer brothers? Have they ceased to be brothers from William's point of view?
I think that's spot on. I really do think, and that's why William was so troubled. I heard when the row first happened, I heard he went up to Balmoral and basically grieved for his brother, a bit like after, when his mother died. He grieved for his brother because he felt he'd lost another incredibly close and important member of his family. So I think he does think they've ceased to be brothers.
And of course, a new book about Princess Catherine claims that William was sick with worry about what would be in the Oprah interview in the days leading up to that famous broadcast.
Well, I'm not surprised, because Harry dropped the bombshell that there was a royal racist, and then 2 or 3 years later we learned that it was Catherine who was apparently the royal racist, which of course must be complete and utter nonsense from my perspective. I just cannot imagine such a thing, but maybe that's what he was worried about, that Harry would drop a huge, ginormous, great big clanger that would land his beloved wife in it, or his grandmother, or his father. And indeed he was. And the next day, he really lashed out at photographers, Prince William, and said, we are very much not a racist family. And you can just see the anger bubbling up inside. But he was indeed sick with worry. In fact, I revealed that at the time and later, that he was literally put off his food. He was so sick with worry ahead of the Oprah interview.
Is a reconciliation between William and Harry impossible as long as Harry remains married to Meghan Markle?
Well, I do think the Meghan problem is going to be Theo Rycroft's biggest stumbling block, because if Harry comes over this summer and next summer without Meghan, there is a chance the two men might shake hands. They did, after all, go to the unveiling of the Princess Diana statue together, and they actually faced away from one another for the unveiling, but they tolerated each other, and I just don't think William can tolerate the presence of Meghan in the room. So any handshake that goes on, I think, will have to be when Meghan is out walking the dog or taking the kids out for a stroll in the park. I just don't think it's going to happen, and she is quite, let's just say, involved, if we're not going to say controlling. So I just wonder whether she would allow William and Harry to have that time on their own, or whether she would try and kind of muscle in. I don't know, but if she does muscle in, that handshake's not going to happen.
Now, clearly, this is an unbelievable scoop from your good self at the Mail on Sunday. Theo Rycroft, one of the King's newest and most trusted aides. Clearly, what he'll try to do, Charlotte, is to leverage the King in this attempt at reconciliation. That Rycroft will reach out to William and say, look, your father is not a young man, he's battling cancer. It's his wish that the two of you can make some kind of peace. So that's the leverage that he will use. Will it work? Is that enough to change William's mind? Concern for and sympathy for his own father?
I honestly think Theo will have a job on his hands, but he is incredibly respected. So he's an Oxford graduate. He's very much in the aristocratic circles that William runs in, because he's married to Flora Astor. He's vaguely related to the Camerons. William respects him, does respect his opinion, not just because he's an aristo, but, he works at the Foreign Office. He's a career diplomat. He did pull off an amazing, Trump state visit with Charles recently. So he might listen to him. I think there is a chance. Yeah, I think there is a chance. If anyone can do it, I think the mood in the palace. What I was hearing was the mood in the palace was, if anyone can do it, Theo can do it, and if Theo can't do it, then nobody can do it.
It's my understanding also, Charlotte, that Prince William has been irritated, to say the least, about the improved relations between Harry and Charles, particularly that face-to-face Clarence House summit.
Yeah, that's another good point. The other thing that Theo just wants to do is get Charles and William to a point where they don't fall out, because Charles has communicated or spoken to Harry and his grandchildren on the US side. And at the moment, I think what I'm hearing is that what happens is that whenever Charles reaches out to Harry, or Harry reaches out to Charles, or there's any kind of communication, it really annoys William. And William goes off in a strop, and then tensions are developing between...
And it feels disloyal. William feels it's disloyal because he's the son who stayed and hasn't put a foot wrong.
Yeah, I can see that, because William's been incredibly dutiful, and his wife had cancer, and he carried on carrying out his duties and doing the right thing and being respectful to the monarchy. And of course, Harry's done, nothing like that, and seems to want to have his cake and eat it. So I can quite see where William's coming from. Can Theo persuade William that, yes, Charles does have a lot of gratitude towards William for being the dutiful one, for being the future monarch, but that doesn't negate the fact that he still wants some kind of communication with his other son, and also to get to know his grandchildren, who he barely knows.
Of course.
He's trying to persuade William to see it from that perspective.
So the prize for this new trusted aide, Theo Rycroft, would be a public handshake between the brothers, and the argument would be, this is what the king wants, and he's a dying man. I say that with a heavy heart, but, he's not well, he's battling cancer. That said, even if this photo op were to happen, perhaps next summer, as you've predicted, Charlotte, it doesn't bode well for the relationship between the brothers when the king passes. What are your expectations of where Harry and William go when William is king?
Well, first of all, I would just say I don't think that handshake between them is going to be in public. I think you might see Harry and Charles in public, but not William and Harry.
Really? Wow.
I don't think it'll be in public. But I do think William will completely cut off Harry when he becomes king. I just do. I'm afraid even if there's a handshake, I think he'll strip him of that HRH title. He'll say you're a not working royal, and by the way, Eugenie and Beatrice, you're out too.
Oh, and of course, that would have implications for Archie and Lily. Would they lose their Prince and Princess titles if that were to happen?
I think so, and I think William thinks that's a very good idea because they are future troublemakers. Look, they're only little children now. They're completely innocent. But the further away these royals are, the further outside of the court, the more danger they are. They could slip up, they could say the wrong thing, they could, you know, we've seen this with Fergie, we've seen it with obviously Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. You know, I think William wants to have the very closest royal team as the monarchy, because then he can keep an eye on them and control them.
It sounds to me briefly, Charlotte, like notwithstanding any sort of carefully brokered handshakes behind closed doors, I'm hearing from you that as it stands, Harry and William are over.
As it stands. But is there hope for the future? I'd say a tiny slither of hope, because they've got the best diplomat in the business inside the palace right now.
Well, Charlotte, it's a massive story. I think it's the royal scoop of the week, if not the month, and I'm really grateful that you've shared it with us today. Head over to the Mail, of course, themail.com. The Mail on Sunday as well. Buy your copy. The editor-at-large is, of course, Charlotte Griffiths. What a story! Live in the studio. A relationship that will always